It's going to be very hot. It's going to be very uncomfortable for everybody.
We're gonna slide down them big hills, you know what I mean, on the big, nice burgundy snowboard.
Okay, another beautiful day here in the booth at the Bomb Hole, which is presented by Pub Beer. Now, first things first, always got to ask, Stony Buds, how are we doing?
So good, my dog.
Love hearing that. Now, to my left, we have Blue Montgomery in the booth today. Blue, how are we doing?
Real good. Happy to be here.
Well, we are happy you're here as well. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Blue, he was an ex-professional snowboarder. He's a founder of CAPiTA Snowboards. He is one of the founding partners of Union Binding Co. He's a family man, and it's hard to put into words the incredible effect that Blue has had on the snowboarding industry as a whole. We're going to do our best to do that today. But first things first, I think we should start with the Patreon.
Let's do it. And first, thank you to all the Patreon members. We could not do this without you. This first one's from good friend and Patreon member Benny Pellegrino. Tell me your favorite story about living with E. Stone.
Let's get going. First of all, thank you for the very kind introduction. I really appreciate it. And I'm honored to be here. I'm a big fan of the Bomb Hole. Secondly, Benny Pellegrino. What a gem of a human that dude is. Benny, love you. Thank you for writing in. So, E. Stone, Stony Buds. Yeah, man, we go way back. We've had some life adventures, and we used to be roommates. And, you know, you and I, we lived in one of the great party houses in Salt Lake snowboard history.
We definitely did.
Remember Bubba's Bar?
Oh, man. It was quite the establishment. I'd say some of the best parties that went down at the time were at Bubba's Bar.
So it was Bubba's Bar, Club Bubba. Bubba Club depends on what kind of party we were having, you know. But it was named after... I had a 70-pound English bulldog who was so sweet.
Such a nice dog. And
Bubba went everywhere with me. And, you know, they say smart dogs know between like 3 to 5 words, but, you know, Bubba knew at least 30. You know, I was doing most of the talking, but you get full conversations with the kid, you know. he'd be at the bar chilling, you know, taking people's IDs. But here's how the whole Bubba's Bar thing went down. So Ethan and Bobby Meeks and I decided to live together one winter. So I was tasked to find us a rental. So I met this wonderful woman who had a rental, and she showed me her house, and I walked in, and, you know, there's pink carpet and pink paint and pink sinks. So I was like, wow, there's some fucking 70s Palm Spring vibes up here in Salt Lake City, you know? And I went down the stairs, and there it was, the bar. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking the mini bar in your buddy's dad's basement, and that is not what I'm talking about. I mean, this thing was glorious. I mean, it's the type of place you get a liquor license and start taking people's money tomorrow.
Yeah, it's better than some of the bars in town, for sure.
And I remember standing there in the moment, looking at this bar. It's like the clouds parted, a rainbow punched me in the face. And I told this woman, I said, ma'am, we'll take it. And then we ended up having the biggest parties in Salt Lake City for the next 2 years.
Man.
That house was sweet, too. I remember coming in one day, walking in the door, because there's like a lot of people in and out, you know. And there's like a duvet over the kitchen table, like a fort, like a little kid would make. And I go in there, like lift up the duvet, and fucking J2's in there with a flashlight. I'm like, Twos, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I live here now. It's my roommate. This is my bedroom. Ethan said it's cool.
You moved in.
So I never followed up on that, but did you say it's cool that J2 could live under our kitchen table?
I think he just kind of assumed he could live wherever I lived type of program. But I don't think I actually gave him permission.
Oh, man. One memory I have from that house. So back in these days, I mean, Bobby Meeks and I, we were big-time pro snowboarders. Big time. And, you know, you do what any young, irresponsible kid does that's never had money in their entire life that all of a sudden has a little bit of money. And we went straight to the dealership and bought brand new cars. You know, Bobby and I bought the same car in the same month. And I remember Travis Wood sitting us down. And by the way, shout out to T. Wood. You got to get him on the show.
Yeah,
so,
we're working on it.
T. Wood, I mean, long before the snowboarding industry had Travis Rice, we had Travis Wood. And that dude has some stories about snowboard history that blow your hair back, okay? So Travis Wood is like the friend that, you know, he's like the friend that shoots you straight, you know, and oftentimes kind of harsh about it. but more often than not, it's true. And I remember he sits Bobby and I down, and he's like, you guys just both bought brand new cars? And we're like, yeah. And this is a direct quote. Okay, this is a direct quote. He looks at us, he says, "You dumb motherfuckers think your snowboard career is going to last forever?" And I was like, oh, Travis, I never really thought about that, But if you're listening to this podcast and you happen to be a professional snowboarder, let me save you the suspense. Your career will not last forever. So make smart decisions.
Facts.
So we were dying to have these cars, and they're only one in stock. So I go up there, at nighttime, the dealership stays open for me. Cody Dresser's he's like, don't go up there, going to the car dealerships, looking for a puppy, you'll come back with one. And I was like, dude, you think I'm going all the way up there to not come back with one? So I come back, and the next morning I wake up Bobby, wake up Ethan, I'm so excited to show you guys. And Ethan comes out to the driveway. It's beautiful, sunny Salt Lake day. And Ethan's in his boxer shorts.
Classic.
Rubbing his eyes, looking at the car, rubs his eyes, looking at the car. Ethan's just he's like, dude, you bought a purple car? I went up there at night. I bought it at night. I thought it was blue. I didn't ask what color it was. So Bobby has this cool black one, of course, whatever. First, I got to take a step back, talk about Bobby and I. We go way back. So Bobby and I go back before the low cash days. Bobby and I go back to the no cash days. So Bobby and I, we used to share a bedroom with no furniture. I'd sleep on the floor on one side of the room. Him and his stinky ass ferrets would sleep on the other side of the room. By the grace of God, we both had smoking hot super curl girlfriends until they dumped us. We snowboarded all day, every day, partied our faces off every night, and we were just living the dream, And with the benefit of a little bit of hindsight, it's interesting how some of those moments in life where, you have the least is when you're having the most fun. And we were crushing those days, But Bobby and I, we're brothers. And he is the much more charismatic, funny, fun one. Everybody wants to hang out with Bobby. And, that's cool. Whatever. I can accept that because I'm the much more mature and responsible one. And I'm capable to understand my mistakes and own my stuff, And I bought a purple car. So what? I drove that. I pushed that purple Kush for 12 years. I ran 150,000 miles on those tires. And yeah, Bobby had a cool black one, but guess what? Oh, Bobby slipped on a banana peel and the repo man scooped his shit up in the middle of the night.
right from our crib.
You missed some payments,
dude.
We all came out one morning. The car was gone.
You got to pay those bills, young Bobo. I haven't lived a perfect life, but you're never gonna see the episode of Dog's Bounty Hunter about me.
Wow, roaster's choice right there.
Roaster's choice.
Unreal. Well, incredible story right out of the gate. Hit the ground running. I think maybe at this point you're from Iowa originally, correct? Not too many snowboarders from that area. You want to talk about your upbringing and what that was like?
Yeah, I grew up in Marshalltown, Iowa. It's a small town, center of the state, and I understand from an outsider's perspective, Iowa probably doesn't seem like the coolest place in the world, but I can tell you I had an incredible childhood. And we didn't have a lot of things, and it wasn't a fancy place, but, it was safe. And we grew up with total freedom and 100% autonomy. And it was that era where you weren't allowed to come home till dark and just grew up outside. And, I was raised by wonderful parents and also friends' parents and the village and to some degree, the kids. I mean, we kind of raised ourselves as like some Lord of the Flies type shit. And I just really appreciate being able to grow up in that time, in that place. So
at what point, I'm just curious, how does somebody from Iowa find snowboarding? Because that is not known for that activity.
Well, we were diehard skateboarders as kids, and people. I mean, we don't have any mountains in Iowa, but it gets cold and snows in the winter, and there are a handful of ski resorts in the state. And so, in those early days in the 80s, 90s people were talking about like surfing on snow, but we weren't surfers. We were hardcore skateboarders. And back then there was no skate park. There certainly wasn't an indoor skate park. And so snowboarding was our, it was all about being able to skateboard through the winter.
Okay, and I also heard that you spent a bunch of time in Michigan as a kid in the summers, correct?
That's true. I spent a ton of time up there. So, I was a cradle Episcopalian. My parents were believers. I had to go to church and Sunday school every single Sunday from birth to 18. And one Sunday after church, my dad was at Coffee and Donut Hour, and he buys a plot of land in northern Michigan, sight unseen from the preacher, off of one 35 millimeter photograph. And he came home and he's getting roasted by the neighbors and his friends, like, what are you doing, And so he puts the whole family in the car, drives us all the way to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And guess what? It's real, exists. It's not a scam. That's great. But it's on an island with no bridges or roads. He didn't know that. So he had to buy a boat, throw the whole family on the boat to get to this island. Island's 5 miles long, 2 miles wide, and it's just dense, uncut forest. And so that first summer, my dad, he comes from another era, it's an era of doers. So he puts the family off, ripping chainsaws, getting the tents out. And that first summer, I spent 45 days in the woods with no running water, no electricity, no nothing, like full bushcraft. And running wild. Did it again at 6, did it again at 7, did it again every summer. And from a very early age, learning how to run a compass and learning Hansel and Gretel games and where are you at in the forest and how do you get back. And, just that being up there and running free is where I really fell in love with nature and, kind of found my church, so to speak. My parents may feel connected in a physical church, and great for them. I'm happy for them that they have that love in their life. But for me, I've always felt that connectivity with a higher spirit, a higher power in nature. And I found it really young up there. There's snakes up there, but no poisonous ones. And there's a ton of wildlife, but there's no cougars, there's no grizzly bears. The only thing that's going to kill you is the water. And I grew up with a very healthy respect for the water and Mother Nature, and spent a lot of time boating, fishing, sailing, and that's a passion of mine that's continued throughout my life.
Yeah, I've heard that you're really into sailing from some of my friends that write for CAPiTA and whatnot, and I got to ask, the only other person I know that sails is Travis Rice. You and T. Ricky ever been out on the open water?
We have, actually. Yeah, I do. I love sailing. It's crazy. I kind of feel about sailing now. I felt about skateboarding when I was 14, which sounds wild, but it's like I dream about it, I think about it. It's just, it's something just really dear to my heart. And T. Ricky, hit me up one time, which is kind of funny, man. Like, I have this theory about celebrities, about how they just come in and out of your life, And in snowboarding, we have a lot of famous snowboarders. And a lot of famous snowboarders, I think, in terms of like friendship, they function like normal people, despite the fact that they're famous. But being a celebrity is something else, and we have few real celebrities in snowboarding. And I know some other people in other sports and other, the arts that are at that level. And it's just an observation that they don't function like normal friends. They come in and out of your life on their terms. And you take Danny Cass, for example. So Danny, known him for a long time, but he is actually friends with my wife, better friends with my wife. They were buddies before me and my wife met. And so, I don't talk to Danny Cass for years. And then one day I'll drive down the cul-de-sac and there's a big ass RV in the cul-de-sac. I'm like, what the fuck is that thing? Look in there, Danny Cass sitting in there in the cul-de-sac. No notice, no heads up. No, I'm not. He just comes into your life. And of course, everybody in the cul-de-sac already knows him. And my neighbor that I thought was super conservative is in there smoking weed with Danny Cass, it's just kind of funny. Like, one older neighbor is like, oh, that Danny, he's such a sweet boy. And the other neighbor is like, who's that guy? I'm like, dude, you have no idea. That guy won the U.S. Open 5 times, has 2 Olympic medals, has his own TV show, is a goddamn legend. But Danny comes in the house. Of course, Jackie is just so excited to see him, and he's so great with the girls, and they love him. And, someone like that comes into your home, and it's just like the sun's shining, and everybody's happy, and it's so great, and we love Danny. And then the next morning when that RV goes up the driveway, poof, he's out of your life. I haven't seen Danny since.
Or heard from him.
No. You know, but who knows? That's just how he rolls. You know, that's his style. And maybe I'll fly home from this and I'll get out, SeaTac Airport, go home. There'll be some big ass RV in my cul-de-sac. Danny Cass will be sitting there. Who knows? But, you know, Travis is kind of the same way where, you know, it's like I don't consider Travis like, you know, not particularly close. But then one day I'll go to work randomly and Travis will come in and sit on the couch and we'll have this incredible conversation about life and about love and about snowboarding and about deep stuff. And when he leaves, I'm like, wow, you know, maybe we're better friends than I thought. You know, and it's just, so they kind of come in and out. And that's what happened with the sailing trip. It's like one day my phone rings. I look down. It says T. Rice on my phone. I know that dude ain't calling me just to shoot the shit. You know, so you pick up the phone and he's like, hey, you know, I know that you sail and Falcor, his boat is, you know, it's in the Bahamas. You know, it's a move to North Carolina. He's like, would you mind help me sail? I'm putting together a small crew to sail. I was like, you know, I'm a busy dude, but there's some people in your life when they call, you answer. And there's some people in your life when they ask you to do something, you just say yes. And I tell you, Travis Rice is one of those people. When Travis Rice calls my phone, I don't even say hello. I just say yes. I say, Travis Rice, yes. You know, whatever Travis Rice is calling you for, the answer is yes. Okay. And so, yeah, fly to the Bahamas on a whim. 4-person crew, and this is on a boat like that on the Ocean Pass as we cut across a chunk of the North Atlantic, you know, and you basically have teams. And so Travis and this other guy named Joe, they had a team where they would navigate and sail the vessel, and then Brian, this other guy, and myself would essentially cook and clean and, you know, relax. And then with the next shifts, then we would sail and navigate, and then those two would relax, you know. And so we leave the Bahamas and weather's great and sailing's great, and then we go through a little point where there's some doldrums, and it's kind of surreal being that far off shore, and there's like no wind and no waves, and it's just glassy, and it's just a pretty incredible experience, you know. But anyway, we get to a point and we're like 350 nautical miles off the shore of South Carolina. So we're deep out there, and a squall hits, a storm comes in, and Brian is sailing and his shift's almost done. It's almost my shift. And I can feel, I'm in my bunk sleeping, waiting for my shift, and I can feel the sea state pick up and the waves pick up to the point where I'm like air timing in my bunk. My full body's like off the bunk and landing on the bunk, you know? And so I'm just like, oh shit, you know? It's like, okay, let's do this. So I get up there, and when it was my turn to take the helm, the storm accelerated, and it was unlike anything I had ever witnessed in my life. And I think if you tie it into snowboarding, oftentimes with snowboarding, there's a false sense of security. You know, imagine like the day after, you know, the Bluebird day after a storm, dumps a bunch, run a mountain peak, you're with your best friends, sun's shining, no wind, super beautiful, full of gratitude and love. But that snowpack could settle, something could break off, and you guys could all be dead like that. And so there's some kind of a false sense of security, even if you do your due diligence and do all your proper protocols. And the thing with sailing, you know, it's been romanticized for thousands of years. And one of the reasons why is there's a potential range of experience. And on one end, it's super mellow, super chill and relaxing. And on the other end is terrifying and potentially death. And the only difference between chill and terrifying is the wind and the waves and your ability to deal with it. That's it. And so we're in this situation. I'm at the helm, and shit is hitting the fan. I mean, I'm looking up at waves off the stern. It's picking the boat up. I have a 48-foot catamaran surfing down waves, going 24.5 knots of boat speed, which on a sailboat is hauling ass. And, you know, the wind and the waves are pushing you this way, but North Carolina's pushing you that way. So you're like going up the waves and you're cranking on the helm, and the boat's just like super fast. And you're white knuckled and gripped because, you know, in that moment, you know, like in a monohulled sailboat, like in a normal sailboat, in theory, you know, the masthead could hit the water, it could right itself. But on a multi-hull, if that thing tips over, you're all going to die. And in that moment, there's no opportunity to like press pause. You can't like, oh, let's press pause and regroup and think about this. And like, it's like every single moment you have to be on it. And that moment lasts for hours and hours, depending on the storm. But there was one definitive moment where Travis wakes up and he goes up to the helm and he's hanging on, with one hand, and he looks out of the sea state, just pitch black and spray everywhere, and looks up at the masthead, and he looks at the instruments, and I'm fucking running the helm like this, and shit's hitting the fan, going crazy. And he looks at me, pats me on the shoulder, and he says, "You got this," and he goes back to bed. So first of all, I'm pretty sure Travis Ray sold that boat to John Florence for $1.6 million on a homie deal. So it was like a $2 million carbon fiber 48-foot catamaran and all 4 of our lives on the line. And he's like, "You got this," and goes back to bed.
It's totally chill.
Now I did have this, of course, and we made it safely because you got to do what you got to do in the moment, But I had some takeaways, from that trip. When on the way home, I had a kind of a moment of reflection, and I've come to the conclusion that Travis Rice is an adventurer in his soul, unlike anything that I've ever seen before. I think that he is a famous professional snowboarder by circumstance because of the time and the era in which he was born. And I'm pretty convinced that if he was born in another era or in another place, he would be a famous, explorer, expeditionist, pioneer, war hero, who knows, But on the way home, it's clear he's a gnarly motherfucker.
One sidebar I got to add to that. I really like what you said about snowboarding having this false sense of security versus sailing where you just know you're in the shit. There's no, you're just like, this is fucking sketchy. But yeah, so how did that experience rate as far as all of your life experiences so far?
Oh man, well, that's one of the things about it. You think of all the stuff Travis has done, and that trip was probably just a drop in the bucket for him. And I'm telling you, it was one of my peak life experiences. And I'm a guy that's like pretty lucky. I've done a lot of cool stuff. I've traveled around the world and done a lot of fun things. But for me, that was just that's in my memory banks for sure. And Travis, if you're listening, thank you for taking me along. I really appreciate it.
All right, I know you've lived a pretty incredible life, a lot of wild life experiences. I know you have one particular story from Mexico that kind of ties in with that.
Yeah, this is kind of it's a difficult story to tell and one that doesn't surface often in my life. There's a lot of people close to me that don't even know this story, but I think it's kind of an interesting one to share because it plays into just kind of the foundation for my life and what led into the snowboarding days. But, my dad was incredible, man. And, he just really believed in, adventure as the cornerstone for, the relationship between me and him and our family. And, there was a moment when I was 13, I think 12 or 13. And, my sister had come home she graduated high school. She came home the next day and told my parents that she joined the Marine Corps for 6 years. And so she left and my mom went back to school. So it was just my dad and I. And he comes home one day and he's like, "You and me, we're going to have an adventure." He was an educator, so he had the whole summers off. That's why we could go to Michigan and do this stuff, And he's like, "We're going to Mexico." And I was like, "Okay, all right, we're going to Mexico." So one day we get a backpack. He has a backpack. I have a backpack. That's it. We get in the car, say goodbye to my mom. He drives us to the city limits of Marshalltown, Iowa, stops the car, and he's like, "Get in the driver's seat." And at 13, he taught me how to drive a car. And I proceeded to drive that car all the way from Marshalltown, Iowa to Nogales, Arizona, to the Mexican border. Parked the car, took our backpacks, walked across the border, got a soda and found a bus that we could book to go to Mexico City. That's what we were trying to do. So my dad spoke Spanish, by the way. I didn't speak Spanish, but so we get on this bus and everything's good until, the second night. It's the middle of the night, and in the middle of the road, there's a armed roadblock, like a roadblock, and there's a bunch of armed gunmen, and so they force the bus to go down this access road. And at that point, that's when this experience happened that is just incomprehensible and kind of hard to put into words, but it got very, very bad, very, very quickly. Shots were fired into the bus. People were hurt. People got off the bus. And it was very violent. And there was a moment where, I don't know if they were like, trying to, make like an example out of somebody. And we happened to be the kind of ones that stood out, being Caucasian Americans. But there was a moment where every single person on the bus was laying face down in the sand, and except for us two. And one of the gunmen pointed the gun, on my dad in front of me. And then after that happened, I don't know why they were trying to trigger him, but they like held my dad down, and one of the guys basically like cocked the gun and pressed it to my forehead. And sorry, I didn't think I'd be this emotional telling this story. I haven't told it in a long time, but you kind of got to put this into perspective where, at that point I was a middle class 13-year-old kid from Iowa. I hadn't really seen any adversity in my life yet. And here I was in the middle of the night, in the middle of the desert, having a very, very agitated human cock a loaded gun and press it to my forehead and scream at me in a language that I don't understand. It was heavy. So anyway, this story is kind of a saga, but we made it out of there alive, thank goodness. And we never made it to Mexico City, but we got off in Guadalajara, and they stole everything we had. We literally had nothing but what we were wearing. And my dad went to American Express office, but that's, we had paper traveler's checks before the age of technology, and they wouldn't give us anything because we didn't have any receipts. And so my dad went to the United States Embassy, and the embassy wouldn't give us anything either, but they said that my mom could wire us money, but it had to go through Washington, D.C. first, and it'd take 3 days to get there. And so this is 1986, and Guadalajara, Mexico, in terms of violent crime and poverty, is probably one of the worst cities, at least in North America. And one of the families that was on the bus said that if you have nowhere to go, come find us. We'll be at this hotel in between the train station and the bus station. And they talked to the manager, and they let us stay there on credit. It was $4 a night. Made us stay there on credit. And so the rooms were horrible, as you can imagine. So we were in the streets. And it's unbelievable in that environment, especially given how much of an outsiders that we were. We clearly didn't belong there. How much love and positivity that we saw from people that have nothing to give. One lady gave us a loaf of bread, and my dad and I ate bread and water for 3 days downtown Guadalajara until this money came in. And, that experience in my life, it just was a learning lesson about the duality of the human spirit, where just days before I witnessed people willing and capable to hurt other humans to get ahead. And then 2 days after that, I see people with literally nothing to give, but they're so warm and so kind. And whether it was a loaf of bread or, a laugh or a smile or a hug or whatever it may be, I saw that and I felt that. And, that experience at 13 is just something that, like, you just can't learn in school. You can't read it out of a textbook. You just got to live it, It was a wild time.
That's unbelievable. I have a question too, as far as just fragility of life. I feel like in our society too, death is not something that we just kind of don't think about. We just kind of pretend it doesn't exist. But did that give you a perspective on how fragile life was?
Yeah, for sure, especially at that age, because I'd never really thought about it. At least in terms of myself, But, I think how it affected my life more than anything, and I look at it I look back now at this being ultimately a positive, is that when I went back to Iowa after that trip, my life was never the same. And you think of the teenage mindset, a lot of my friends were starting to rebel against their parents or act out or kind of figure out where they fit and how to get what they want. And I never, ever went through that because I had such love and appreciation or gratitude for my parents, especially my dad, after that experience. And I would never, ever want to disappoint him or let him down. And the hierarchy of like the parent child relationship went out of the window. So when I went back to Iowa, I didn't have any rules. I literally had no rules. At 13, 14 years old, I could do what I want, say what I want, come and go as I please, no curfew, not like zero rules. And I know for some kids that doesn't work because, you know, kids benefit from a certain amount of structure. But after that experience with my dad, the level of respect was so intact that having no structure like that really fostered my confidence and my independence. And that's something that I took into, you know, the snowboarding days as a high school kid.
You like proved to your dad you can handle anything, basically.
Yeah.
So he, in turn, you became a man that day, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And also, you know, the dynamic in Marshalltown changed too. My parents, I think, had new outlooks on life, and they really opened up our home after that. So I had 2 foster brothers and 2 foster sisters. My parents shared a bedroom of our house with foreign community college students, and so there was always somebody in the kitchen speaking a different language or cooking a new kind of food. And so it was like my teenage years were very much like a revolving door. And that's kind of where I go back to the fact I really feel like I was raised by the community, you know.
On a sidebar tangent here, I do find it really fascinating because I've gone down to Mexico before, and you see these people that have no money, and their community is so tight, and you go down to the square at night, and everybody's down there. It's multi-generational homes. Everybody takes care of each other, and then in the United States, you maybe go to upper class neighborhoods, and everybody's in these huge houses, and you see all these people that have acquired all this massive wealth, and that's what we're aiming for in our society. But then I kind of had this weird epiphany that sometimes those people with the tighter communities, like you're describing, the way your parents opened up your house, the people with the close family, they seem to be happier than the people that are in a big house where everybody's in separate rooms and there's no connectedness. I don't know if you have anything to add to that. Or
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, you know, happiness has less to do with what you have and more about, you know, the outlook that you have on life and the love that you have in your heart. And I think being close to people is a huge part of that. You know, helping people is a huge part of that. It's sometimes feels like it's you know, we all just have so much going on in our lives. It's hard to keep our own shit together, more or less help somebody else. But when you do help somebody else, it really helps fill your heart with love.
Okay, let's dive back into some snowboarding talk. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for telling that story. That was powerful and really, really moving. And but let's go ahead and change gears and dive back into snowboarding. I know that Mount Hood has played, if you look at people that have sat in that chair, Mount Hood has played a gigantic role in freaking almost everybody that sits in that chair. Almost every one of them. Now, and I know that it did in yours as well. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, Mount Hood played a huge role, but specifically summer camps. You know, I actually spent most of my time up in Whistler, you know, during the snowboard years. So, yeah, you know, it's kind of funny how we got there, but the year after the Mexico deal, I think my dad was trying to compensate and really wanted me to have a positive experience. And so, you know, he comes home one day and he's like, he pulls out a globe and he's like, I want you to spin that globe, and wherever your finger lands, that's where we're going. So I spun the globe and my finger just happened to land on this town called Tuktoyaktuk, which is on the Arctic coast in the Northwest Territories. It's now, you know, and so that next summer, dude, he bought a 1987 Isuzu Trooper, and we drove that fucker 9,000 miles all the way to the Arctic coast.
Oh my God. That's wild.
Your dad.
He was something else. And I loved that, you know, because he was a musician, you know, he played the bagpipes. That's actually how I got my name Blue, is my dad really celebrated our Scottish heritage, and each family has the tartan or plaid that's on their kilts, and ours, it's actually purple, but it's called the Montgomery Blue. And so I remember us being in Tuktoyaktuk, which is like, it's a whaling fishing village of, you know, First Nations people, you know, it's not a ton up there. And again, we're kind of like the outsiders, people looking at us like, what are you doing here? You know? And we didn't have any purpose to be there other than just the adventure, you know? But my dad would bust out the bagpipes, and it's such a unique instrument, and it just stopped people in the tracks. And then all of a sudden sparks conversation, and people are inviting us over to dinner and drinks. And it's just, I learned also from him the connectivity and the magic of music, that music can play in your life. So anyway, on that trip, you know, we drove the trip and we went into British Columbia and just fell in love with, like, you know, BC and how beautiful it is. And so the following summer, you know, because in the meantime that's when we discovered snowboarding, and my crew in Marshalltown. And I was, you know, learning about snowboard culture and getting like invested in the first movies and all the pros. And so I heard that Craig Kelly was having a snowboarding camp in Whistler. And this is the summer of 1989. And I fucking begged my parents to take me there. And so, again, I kind of had the benefit of this Mexico thing in my back pocket, parents trying to compensate. So they get my best friend, Joe Stalzer, my grandma, mom and dad, and a little pop-up trailer. And they drove from Iowa all the way to Whistler. Dropped us off in the center by the Keg restaurant in Whistler. And Ross Ribagliati, you know, Ross, the first, you know, Olympic snowboard medalist. He's like, you guys here for the camp? And we're like, sure are. And he takes us to Craig's camp, and man, that summer was something else as 15-year-olds. You know, I saw just young Rankwit talking shit to everybody, pushing everybody's buttons. I saw Mike Jacoby beat up Mike Rankwit in the parking lot. You know, I saw like the party savage side of snowboarders, and then I saw like, you know, Craig would, in the morning, he would get up and he would stretch, you know, and he would take his craft seriously. And he just had this like vibe that he just seemed so connected, you know, and cool. And then we go to the half pipe and all the heroes are there. Roach was there, and, you know, just so many people. And Damian Sanders, which was like, man, Damien at the time was the fucking coolest. He was like the biggest rock star. I'm not trying to say like this whole it was better back then deal. I'm not doing that. But, you know, it's different because back then there were 20 pro snowboarders in the world, and they were all rock stars. They were larger than life. And now there's like 400 dudes that can tell a girl in the bar they're a pro snowboarder. It's just the effect is different. Just mathematically, it's different, you know? Mm-hmm. And at the time, you know, Damien was married to Brandy Sanders, who was Penthouse Pet of the Year. And so I'm milking that 15-year-old kid from Iowa vibe at the top of the pipe, having Brandy make me peanut butter sandwiches before I drop into the pipe.
Unreal.
She was beautiful too.
It was epic. I got a scrapbook from that with these photos of my heroes. And, you know, same vibe, established pros, up-and-coming pros. I remember John Boyer just fucking ripping, sending it off this wind lip, and
John Boyer.
Boyer. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It was cool. And Roach was there. Roach was, you know, a hero of mine, and, you know, still is. And, you know, it's kind of funny about Chris Roach is, you know, I've lived, you know, been in the snowboarding industry half my life. And I can't say that I know everybody in snowboarding, but I know almost everybody in snowboarding, or at least have come across almost everybody in snowboarding. And that summer, I was too scared to talk to him. And still to this day, I've never talked to him. And I think some people, it's just nice to like keep them on the shelf, you know? And this is a long time ago now. This is at our old office, but the phone rings and somebody answers. They're like, yeah, there's Chris Roach on the phone, wants to talk to somebody about union. Who wants to take it? I'm like, not me. I'm not taking that call, you know? You know, I'm sure he's like the nicest dude in the world and whatever, but, you know, I just think it's fun. Sometimes it's just, you gotta keep your heroes, mm-hmm. You know?
I agree.
Your little allure of mystery still.
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes you can be disappointed. Sometimes you're not, though.
Well, one thing I want to lean on to is talking about the summer camp, be it Hood, be it Camp of Champions, doesn't matter where, but that can altered the direction of your life? It seems like where you go, you see some pros, you see some like-minded people. It's not like a little hill that you grow up riding. All of a sudden, you're just like, oh, this is it. Yeah, I've had a similar experience where you're like, yep, this is what I want.
These are my people.
Yeah.
Oh, life was altered that summer for sure.
And then from there, where did you go?
From there, snowboarded in Dubuque that winter. There's a resort called Sundown in Dubuque, which is on the Mississippi River nearby, and I gotta give a big shout out to Mom. My mom was back in school at the time, and every weekend she drove us to the ski resort. And it was 2.5 hours from our house.
Woo!
And she would drive there every single weekend and sit in that lodge all day Saturday, all day Sunday. And she'd do it the next weekend and the next weekend and the next weekend. So my mom has been my great enabler in my life, and my dad was the one that teed up all these adventures, but my mom was the one that's gotten behind and supported every single thing I've ever wanted to do, including CAPiTA. So thank you, Mom.
You got to really appreciate the parents.
Let's give her a super air horn. Oh, and a little obnoxious, but
the parents that are there for the kids like that. I mean, 2.5 hours every weekend. That is incredible.
Yeah, it was cool. And so then after that, next summer it was the Hood mission for the first time.
I think I have a guest question that pertains directly to what we're talking about from none other than Andy Wright, incredible photographer.
You said photographer.
For those who are unfamiliar, here we go.
Hi, Bombhole. Friend of the pod, Andy right here with a question for Blue. Blue, it's been exactly 30 years since we met. Summer of 1991 at Mount Hood, digging a half pipe by hand with shirts possibly off and definitely getting sunburned beyond belief. That's how I remember it. Hey, so I was wondering what it was like for you to make that decision to take kind of a pretty big leap of faith, jump in the car, go thousands of miles from home in search of summer snowboarding, when there really wasn't that much known about it at the time other than maybe a small article in the magazine here and there. I mean, it's not like it was on social media or the internet, both of which obviously didn't exist at the time. And also maybe talk a little bit about how much impact that decision may have had on your path forward since then. So thanks. Looking forward to hearing the answer.
Wow, Andy Wright, legend. Thank you, Andy.
Day.
So yeah, man, Mount Hood. So I was 16 years old. Dave Itis and Joe Stalzer, my homies, are 15 years old, a year younger than me, and we took my mom and dad's car. I wouldn't say we stole it. They weren't here, but again, it's like they trusted me to make responsible decisions. So I would say that I just drove it without permission. All the way from Iowa. From Iowa all the way to Mount Hood. And so we ate ramen noodle and camped at Alpine. I don't know why that campground doesn't seem to be open much anymore, but back then we camped at that high elevation campground up there by the parking lot, you know? And we were just, low cash, dirtbag, high school kids, and clip and lift tickets, which you could do back then semi-successfully. And we just met people that were just amazing, inspirational people. And in terms of Andy Wright, one of the biggest gifts that snowboarding has given me is lifelong friends. And isn't that incredible that you meet these people that you stay in touch with and have these experiences with over 30 years? I've known Andy Wright for 30 years. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So yeah, Andy Wright. Oh, long-haired Andy Wright, baked lobster, sunburned Andy Wright, just glistening in the sun. Oh man, digging the pipes. But yeah, man, we had an incredible. I remember meeting Dave Bastrachia up there that summer too, and there was a bunch of people. But we didn't know much about it, but we knew that Mount Hood was the destination. And I think my opinion is Mount Hood's always been kind of the cultural center of snowboarding, at least in North America. But man, we went there and we camped, and now, so that was when I was 16 years old. I'm 47 years old, and I have snowboarded at least one day on Mount Hood in the summer and camped in a tent at least one night. every single summer of my life except for one since that summer. And so it's just this thing. It's like, dude, you got to go to Hood. You got to punch that ticket. You just got to hit. For me, it's like hitting reset. You know, it's like you want to get reconnected to snowboarding. Go to Mount Hood, sleep in a tent, and go ride up there.
Incredible. One thing you mentioned earlier too is hand dug half pipes. I think, you know, not all of our audience is familiar. You look at the X Games nowadays, you see a 22-foot half pipe that's
try digging that by hand.
Glaring ice, and they're doing triple corks. What did it look like? I'm curious about this. Like, what did the half pipe look like? Or you guys are obviously digging with shovels, and how has it changed for better or worse on the sessions the way they used to be, and currently with snowboarding?
So a couple of things. How they used to be was more like, you know, rut boarding, because we all knew how to jump. And so if you could kind of make that line in the pipe, which is kind of a rut turn into a jump, then you could like boost and do that on different areas. And that was like super fun, you know. But when you had like a real transition, it was more like trying to learn how to ride it, because we didn't have real transitions back there. We didn't really know how to ride them. So there was kind of a learning curve there. You know, how it's different today, you know, I have an opinion that not everyone shares, but my opinion is that the 22-foot super pipe has actually been bad for snowboarding. And I think that it's made for TV. And while I appreciate the unbelievable athleticism of the Olympic level half pipe snowboarder, I mean, these men and women are unbelievable athletes. And to see them doing what they're doing at that level, spinning 20 plus feet out of a 20 plus foot super pipe. If you go 1 inch to the left or the right, there's serious consequence. It's super impressive. But the truth is, there are a handful of people in the world that can ride that type of pipe. And there are very, very limited opportunities for people to learn how to ride that kind of a pipe. And I think back when we had the smaller pipe dragon days, you know, it was this thing where in order to be taken serious as a resort, everybody had to have a pipe dragon. And so at every resort, medium size, even some small ones across the tidal basins of the world, you know, the small resorts, everybody had a half pipe, whether it was 12 feet, 14 foot, 18 foot. And that is an extension of our deep rooted skateboarding, you know, culture in snowboarding, is to ride that pipe. I remember the Brighton pipe being like so packed and so many people, you're like yelling, dropping and dropping necks, and you're fucking snaking people and shit like that, because it was so fun to ride a half pipe. Everybody had one. Now, I go to these resorts, there's a 22-foot sheet of ice, scary ass hat. Nobody's riding it.
Tumbleweed going through it.
Tumbleweeds. You know, I went to Copper Mountain like last year or the year before, and I'm standing at the top of this pipe. And I'm just like, okay, let me get this straight. I used to be a paid professional snowboarder. I coached half-pipe snowboarding for a fucking decade. I've snowboarded so much in my lifetime, and I'm scared of this thing. You know, I'm going 1,000,000 miles an hour down this thing to catch what, like 6 inches of air?
Right.
Maybe I can grab.
And it's scaring you out of your mind.
So again, like, I'm not trying to take anything away. You know, I watched the half pipe under the lights at the X Games, and I am just blown away with so much stoke and appreciation. And for that, you know, I'm not, you know, zero discredit to that. That is amazing. I'm just saying, for like the culture of snowboarding and for the average snowboarder, I really, really wish that we still had the smaller pipe dragons and pipes across the country, because they're more accessible to people. And what I feel like it's done is the benchmark of a 22-foot super pipe has given all those resorts an out. They can say, it's too expensive, it's too much, we can't do it, we don't have the snow, and therefore we're just not going to do anything at all.
Yeah, no one's going to use it. They're going to say, and remember how social it was, too. You know, that was the coolest part.
So.
Everyone got to hang out and see each other and talk to each other. And just something that we need back in snowboarding.
So now you got the biggest corporate resorts that can have a 22-foot super pipe. No other resorts have a half pipe that you can ride for fun, or to learn on. And then if, let's say, you know, you're a kid that you have a dream of being an Olympian. Okay, so how does that work? You got to have rich parents that can move to Mammoth or move to, you know, Whistler, so your kid can like learn how to ride a half pipe. You know, and it comes back to an accessibility thing and a diversity thing, that, not to go down that wormhole, but there's a lot of opportunity in the snowboard industry for us to improve.
Mammy's got 3 sizes.
Well said. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I haven't been there in years, so
Yeah.
if that's a new trend, that would be incredible.
Hopefully they lead the charge on that and more people see what they're doing.
I like you said. I same thing with some of the super pipes around the resorts I go to. It's like lifelong snowboarders that are terrified to drop into it.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be. Whereas you look at a 12-footer and you're like, let's get busy. You know.
Well, look at like the
looks fun.
like Bodie's mini pipe jam at Hood.
Yeah.
Everybody's psyched to do that thing. You know why? Because it's fun.
Good
Yeah,
time.
exactly. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Well, let's talk about. I think next phase of your career, I believe, was it the move to Utah after that?
Yeah. Yeah, so we lived that Midwest dream through high school, and again, thanks to the parents and my friends' parents, they let us drive all the way around the Midwest, and we drove all of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and that was the era of those pipe dragon pipes, and the Midwest amateur half pipe scene was like a thing, and so a couple things happened. One, I was the 1991 or 2, I can't remember, Midwest half pipe champion, Tower Basin, Wisconsin. And that was super fun. And then my friend from Dubuque, he moved to Utah, and he got on the front cover of the 1992 issue of Snowboarder magazine. And his name was John Krieg. And he actually just passed away a month ago in Park City.
Let's toss him an air horn.
Yeah.
Big old air horn.
I'd like to give, an air horn to the Krieg family. They were kind of a second family in Dubuque, and just wonderful people, and 3 sons, and 2 are gone now. And Sam, the youngest one, still going strong. Sam, if you're listening, love you, man. But John, in those Midwest days, there's just so many characters. Ron Beretta. You know Ron Beretta, right?
Mm-hmm.
He runs Sin Skateboarding in Brack. He's fucking out the pride of Rhinelander, Wisconsin. That guy is amazing. And Dave Hubach and all these old dudes. But so our heroes, we'd go to these contests. I think they're a little bit older than us. When we were like sophomores in high school, they were seniors. But it was Dale Rayberg, Rowan Rogers, Nate Cole, and Jake Blattner. And we'd go to these events in Wisconsin, and we'd see these guys, and it was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. Because at that point in snowboarding, there was still kind of like some crossover, like ski fashion, and it was the end of the Dayglow era. And I see these dudes. First of all, winters in the Midwest are cold. And these guys aren't running technical outerwear. They're running like thick gauge corduroy pants, flannel shirts, got dreadlocks, the hair's dyed all crazy colors, big wide stances. They looked cooler than everybody else. They were way better than everybody else. They won every single contest. They were the shit. Like, they were our idols, were those guys. And so when they like set the bar for us in terms of like what snowboarding was all about. And when they left, they moved to Colorado and changed the game. It was the original Joyride team and Type A and Ride team. And they were really on the forefront of like skate style and switch snowboarding. And, they're fucking legendary because of how damn good they were, But so when they were there, they won everything. And then when they left, kind of me and my friends were the ones that like were kind of doing it in the Midwest, And then we were thinking about going to Colorado to follow them. But then John Krieg, he called and he's like, don't go to Colorado. He's like, you want to come to Utah, because Colorado's popping now, but Utah's popping next. And Salt Lake is going to be the spot, and we thought about that. And as much as we, looked up to those guys, it's kind of the question of, do you want to follow them to Colorado and live in their shadow and try to be them? Or do you want to go somewhere else and try to blaze your own trail? And so that's why we chose to move to Utah.
That's crazy. He had the insight to know it was going to pop next. Colorado was really popping off.
Colorado was where it was at back then.
That's where it was at.
Yeah.
Every pro lived there.
That's where Stony Buds lived.
Yeah, that's where I went.
Didn't you live above Beaver Liquors?
Yeah.
That was a legendary spot.
That was a
You and
legendary
Whitey
spot.
and who else lived there?
Tarquin lived there. Cole Taylor lived there. It's kind of Russell lived on our couch. Russell Winfield for a little while. It's kind of a revolving door.
I think that's where we met.
Ron Baird might have lived there for a little while.
Yeah, Baird.
It was just like a Dresser might have lived there for. It's just people just coming through.
Yeah,
I remember the hot tub. It was like the penthouse of Avon, Colorado.
I remember going through the Beaver Liquor spot.
Right above a liquor store. Woo.
Sidebar, it always you
Pool
can always
table.
tell how long somebody's known Stony Buds by when they call him Ethan. And you've been calling Ethan. I bet some of our listeners are like, who's Ethan? Who's they talking about? But Stony Buds' real name's Ethan for the listeners that are unfamiliar.
It's a fact.
Stony
Stone
Buds,
is my middle
East
name.
Stone. Yeah, that's true. I've known Stony Buds so long I call him Ethan. That's a fact. Back to 1400s, right, Chris?
Yeah, it was pre-electricity, churn your own butter type of era.
We were churning butter.
You guys were churning butter, yeah.
So here's how I justified it to my parents. I told them that I was going to go to school and I was going to move to Utah to go to the University of Utah. So I graduated high school, went home, packed my shit, drove across the country by myself, stopped at the Chevron on Foothill Drive and asked them how to get to the dorms at the University of Utah. And I started college 2 days after high school. One of the reasons I did that is back then the University of Utah was on quarters, not semesters, so you could go summer and fall and take the whole winter off and snowboard.
I'm curious, how do you go right from high school? Because summer classes?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's what
got
he's
it. That
saying.
makes
He went
sense.
for the summer so
I-
we could
yeah.
shred.
Wow, 2 days after high school, right? Did you?
Did you graduate?
Yeah,
I
that's
did
what-
not.
yeah.
I did not graduate.
Say.
So yeah, I majored in marketing, creative writing, and wanted to have that experience. But let's be honest, at that point in my life, I was just obsessed with snowboarding and drinking beer.
I
and-
will say you were kind of like the frat director of our crew as far as like partying and Pabst Blue Ribbon and football and getting the crew to do a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, I've just kind of been like the organizer.
Organizer of good times.
The organizer of good times.
Yeah.
I'll take that. I'll take a camp director, camp counselor title.
And
That's
then
fair.
when we wanted to have like a Thanksgiving football game, this guy contacts Pabst Blue Ribbon, and next thing we know, there's someone from Pabst
You
flying
guys are
out.
crushing can.
Well, they're bringing out cans, and like the marketing director's flying out to hang with us
Do you know that about the Pabst Bowl?
just for a friendly game.
I don't think so. No, I don't know if I
a
know.
friendly game of football.
So Pabst Blue Ribbon, the emergence of Pabst Blue Ribbon in the 90s and the early 2000s was kind of an anomaly because all these beer companies were spending, millions, tens of millions of dollars marketing their product, and Pabst didn't spend any money. Yet Pabst just kept gobbling market share and more and more and more. And how they did it is they said, hey, we're not going to advertise traditionally. We're not going to go hire these famous people. We're going to sit back and see who just naturally supports our product, and then we're going to support them. And so we concocted this crazy thing with, Rob Campbell, who was the editor of Snowboarder at the time. And we made this like silly game because you're a football fan,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So back then I was the only one. My
Yeah.
friends didn't care. And the reason why is there was this divide back then of like jock culture and skateboard culture.
yep.
And not only were the skaters and snowboarders not football fans, they actually disliked like the jock mentality. And so I had to like concoct these creative ways to get the friends together just to drink beer, just to watch the Super Bowl, And so anyway, we made this silly thing that was super funny. And but in the end, this is kind of wild. But there was a story in the Wall Street Journal, and they asked. I had the president of Pabst Brewing Company on speed dial on my phone. That's how tight it got. And there was an article in the Wall Street Journal, and they basically asked Pabst Blue Ribbon like how they did it, and they gave credit to two groups specifically: Urban Bike Messengers and some pro snowboarders from Utah.
Yes, that's awesome. Yeah, gobbling up that market share because snowboarders are just
And then everybody was
hammering
drinking
beers.
Pabst.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, while we're talking about good times, I think it could be time to get into the old pub beer crapshoot, huh, Buds?
Yeah.
First things first. What do you got going on over there, Buds?
Had a little pub beer.
What's their motto?
Cheap, fun beer.
Absolutely. Now, if you're going to a football game these days and you want to crush a couple cans, what are you going to pick up, Buds?
I'm going to pick up a delicious pub beer lager.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said, they support us. You should support them. Let's get into the pub beer crapshoot.
Welcome to the Pub Beer Crapshoot.
All right, Blue. Basically how it works is you just roll 2 dice and we'll tell you what you got to do.
Let's go. Lucky dice.
I got a 7.
7.
7. This is my favorite question on the sheet, courtesy of the good people over at Pub Beer. Who is one of your favorite people to party with?
I would say Jason Bump.
He can't even last the whole night.
Well, that guy,
What made him so particularly good at partying?
I don't know, Ethan. What do you think?
Dude, he eventually is just like turns into a different person, you know. Like you just see it in his eyes when it happens.
Like he's staring through you, kind of.
Well, he's like walking and acting, but he's not there.
Okay.
And I guess he makes it through the night, but I don't know, man. He turns into an animal. So I guess good times.
Well, first of all, let's clarify that, I think he's a very responsible and mature family man and a professional these days.
Yeah.
Just want to make that clear. But back in the day, god damn, was it fun partying the Bump.
Yeah.
Dude, oh man, I don't know how many wormholes you want to get down with, but
Bump is just, wow.
I remember that time we were in Vegas and Marky Mark was there.
Yes.
So I'd met Mark Wahlberg before. I went to the MTV Video Music Awards once. And that's like back when Tina was dating Dave Grohl, and we were all super tight with Tina. And I had a friend that was in charge of wardrobe at MTV. And so anybody that was on MTV had to go through her office to get outfitted before they're on camera. And I was actually back in Mexico doing something different at the time. And she called. She's like, hey, you want to be my date to the MTV Video Music Awards? And I was like, I have any money, and I'm in Mexico, and I don't have anything to wear. She's like, dude, you know what I do for a living? Like, I'll give you something to wear. And so I'm like, all right. So I go there. She gives me a $5,000 one-of-a-kind Hugo Boss suit. And because I knew Tina and I knew Dave and I knew these other people, and like Adam Yauch from the Beastie Boys, like stayed at Tina's house. So I knew these people enough that there's like the VIP level, and then there's like the VIP level. And I'm at that extra super cool dude party where I'm literally the only not famous person there. Okay. You know how weird it is to be in an environment when you're not used to being around celebrities, and everywhere you look and every single person is a celebrity except you. And I'm sure they're all wondering, like, who the fuck is this guy? But you know what? I was double fisting, double Jack Cokes in a $5,000 suit. So they just assumed,
you
was somebody.
Too.
So I partied with them that night. And then you fast forward, we go to Hard Rock to Vegas, and we're walking in and we see Mark and just like, oh, hey, what's up? And he's like, what's up? And like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, well, we're going to the strip club.
Did he remember you?
Yeah.
So that's how
Talking
that
about
all
Mark
happened.
Wahlberg.
Yeah,
Yes,
Mark
to be clear.
Wahlberg. Marky Mark.
He's
Wahlberg.
like,
And
well,
the Funky Bunch.
he's like, we're going to the strip club. And in my mind, that means like, oh, okay, cool. Have fun. Like maybe see you later, And he walks and he turned like 10 steps and he turns around. He's like, you guys coming? And Bump is just like, oh, fuck yeah. And Bump like charges after, hops in his limo, was on the Marky Mark
Pukes in his
train
limo.
the whole time.
Got puke all over the side of his limo, too. I remember leaving the club that night. I was having the best night of our lives, and Bump was passed out under the bar stools. And I remember being so drunk. I was just like, later, Bump. And he just was sleeping there. And I forgot to even take him with me. But he obviously made it home. He's still around.
Well, let's make something clear. There's rules for celebrities, and there's rules for the rest of us. And when you walk into a fine gentleman's establishment with someone like, Marky Mark, there's a different set of rules that you get to abide by. And that was pretty interesting to see.
There was like a line of girls to meet him, like 100 girls deep. I think they all started calling their friends probably to come down.
Probably.
What a night.
All right. No more Bump stories.
I have one sidebar interesting note on my notes here that I'm curious about. I heard you were Louis Vito's coach at 9 years old.
That's right. Yeah, little Louis, 9-year-old Louis. I saw that when I came in here. Saw Louis up there on the wall.
Yep.
But you can imagine, if you know Louis Vito, you know how just positive and charismatic and fun that dude is. And could you imagine like a 9-year-old Louis Vito? Oh my God. And his dad is up there. His dad was so cool too. And but yeah, I was coaching the CAPiTA Champions, and that experience for me was wonderful. I was the very first American hired at the CAPiTA Champions. Ken Achenbach thought I was Canadian. When he found out that he hired, quote unquote, a fucking Yankee, he was pissed. And, but yeah, that was kind of like, those formative years for me where snowboarding turned from like something I loved into like the professional snowboarding. And when I moved out here to Salt Lake City, I lived with my good friend Ben Bubba Dodds. And Dodds was like the best snowboarder of our Midwest crew and got me to come out here. And then he went to SIA because back in the day when the trade show was in Vegas, everybody would go there with their sponsor me tapes. And you'd go booth to booth to booth of the companies and show them your sponsor me tape, try to get snowboard. So I was still going to school at the time and I couldn't go. And so Ben went to the show and he came back. And he walks in the door and he's like, guess what? And I'm like, what? And he's like, I got sponsored. And I'm like, really? And he's like, and you did too. Because on his sponsor me tape, there's like a couple clips at the end, you know, of me. And so he comes back with free boards from White House Snowboards of Huntington Beach, California. And that was our first like free, you know, ride. And there was a couple guys on White House Snowboards, Omar Lundy, which was like big. He ended up having like a big career with Burton after that. And then Waylon Edwards, who ended up being like a Sims pro. But Waylon lived in Whistler. And he was like, you should come up, you know, in the summer to Whistler. And I hadn't been up since Craig's camp. And so I'm like, all right, you know, I'll come up there. And so I drove to Whistler. And I remember being at the border, and the Canadian customs officer asked me how much money I had, and I told him $6. Lesson: do not tell the Canadian customs officer that you don't have any money, because they won't let you in. You know. So I circle back, get myself into Canada, land on Waylon's couch, and he was working at the keg. He'd like swoop baked potatoes at the end of the night and bring them home for me. I ate baked potatoes for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and just sleep on his couch. But anyway. The Camp of Champs was going on, and I wanted to go up there, and I had no in, and there was like that Canadian scene at the time was like real tight, and there's no real breaking into it. And so one day I'm by myself, and I can't remember what I had to do in Squamish, but I drove down to Squamish for something, and on the way back to Whistler, I see this girl with her, you know, thumb out hitchhiking. So I pick her up, and I'm like, hi. She's like, hi. I'm like, what's your name? She's like, Jen, or she's like, Gibber. Introduce herself as Gibber. I'm like, your name's Gibber? She's like, yeah, Gibber Jen. And Gibber Jen is like an absolute gem of human being. I'm talking quite possibly the nicest person in a country that's famous for nice people. You know, she is amazing. And so we became fast friends. And on the drive to Whistler, Gibber Jen's like, hey, I'm on lunch crew at the Camp of Champs. And tonight, all the girls, we're making lunch. Do you want to come over and help us make lunch? So number one, I like cute girls, and number two, I was fucking hungry. So of course I'm gonna go make lunch with the girls. So I'm there. I'm the only guy. We're making sandwiches for next day's camp, and then they're like, "Hey, tomorrow morning we got to take all these tins up to base camp. Like, will you help us carry them up there?" So I'm like, "All right." So I get to the chairlift early in the morning. I'm with a tin full of sandwiches. They don't check my lift ticket because I didn't have one. And I'm with the camp. And so I take that tin up the chairlift, up the bus, all the way up to Horseman's Glacier, side slip down the bottom of the pipe. And I asked Bruce Irving, who was in charge of Camp of Champs at the time. It's like, hey, I brought these lunches up. Can I ride? He's like, no. You know, like hard ass no. You know, like get the fuck out of here, no. So I'm like, okay. So I leave, you know, and then the next night, made those sandwiches. Next day, brought that tin up. Hey, Bruce, can I ride? No. You know, I did it a day after day after day, all summer long. Brought those damn lunches up. Now, at this point, I'm homies with a lot of the Canadian dudes, Sheen Campos and Al Clark and Hager and like, Dennis Bannock and like all those, you know, Maury and all those dudes. Like I was friends with them. So it was kind of like a joke. Watching me slip down the middle of the pipe with the lunch tin, and everybody knows I'm not going to get to snowboard, you know? And so, it was like the last week of camp, I bring those lunches through, and I'm just like, I think I didn't even ask that day. And Bruce is like, hey, Blue, get up there. And so I rode my ass off that last week of camp, snaking those campers like it was going out of style. You know?
And no pay here, right?
Not that year. I didn't get paid. No, I just got to ride. But
that 1 week,
you know, so it was a summer full of effort for that 1 week. But
dedication.
After that, I went, you know, the Utah that next summer or that next winter in Utah is when like things started to materialize, and I started getting pictures in the magazine, started getting better sponsors, started getting paid, and then I went back up to Canada. And that's when I actually got a job, you know, coaching that next summer. And then I coached at the Camp of Champs for, I think, 6 summers or something like that in a row. But man, such great friends, and, you know, spent so much time up there in Whistler that it was just cool that I kind of had 2 scenes and 2 homes. I had the friend group in Salt Lake City in the winter, and then I had that friend group in Whistler in the summer, and it was pretty awesome.
Also amazing the profound effect riding year round can have on your snowboarding. The amount of board time you end up getting so good, so quick if you're on the board year round.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't counting, but I was snowboarding a lot in those years, if you want to do the daily count. But I think what, is a cool takeaway from that story is, I see a lot of young kids that want to live the snowboard dream, and they're kind of waiting for other people to make it happen. And there's kind of a lot of excuses about why it doesn't happen and this, that. And it's like, man, sometimes you have to make your own opportunities. Sometimes you have to, understand when people say no, take it with stride and take it respectfully. But, if you feel like you have something to contribute and something to offer, you need to find creative ways to create your own place and make it happen.
Well said. And I know that kind of also aligns with, I know one of your biggest sponsors over your career or longest running sponsor was Vans. And there's kind of a similar trajectory there. Yeah,
I was so appreciative of that. So I saw Rob Dow, who has a snowboard company called Wired Snowboards in Vancouver now. Rob's awesome, doing a great job. But I saw him one day with the all-white Vans moon boots, which was the very first pair of snowboard boots Vans made. And I tracked down Scott Sissimus, who was the team manager at the time. And I don't know, he said yes, I got on Vans, but I was the second snowboarder on Vans ever. And I rode for Vans my entire snowboard career. They are the only sponsor that when I was done at the end had to call them and say, thank you very much, but don't send me a paycheck next month. I'm done. And Vans sent me around the world, for years. And I met so many great people and I had so many great experiences. And I'm just so, appreciative of that, that sponsor at that time of my life. And, another thing for kids to kind of understand, it's not always about money, when I first got on Vans, I mean, I think I was making $100 a month, and then I was making $250 a month. But I just felt so connected to that brand. And I mean, you remember back then, dude, I had 2 pairs of shoes on auto ship a month. Now that sounds excessive and that doesn't really align with some of my current sustainable initiatives. But when you're a young kid and I got a fresh pair of sneakers at the bar every other Friday, that's some next level shit, And
I remember one time at Bubba's bar, Bubba backed up while he was out of town and shit all over his stack of shoes. Little separation anxiety. He was so tight with Blue.
Little spiteful shit.
Blue was out of town and we had a party and woo.
I'm a stack of Vans sneakers.
Yeah,
man,
all up inside them.
But yeah, so I definitely have fond memories, and all these years later, it doesn't happen all the time, but every once in a while, unsolicited, I get a box of Vans on my doorstep, and for the kids too. And I just think that's really cool, and I really appreciate it.
That's way cool.
Well, while we're on the subject of your professional career, I think it could be a good time to get into what. What's that, Buds?
Name that video part.
Name That Video Part is presented by Mammoth Mountain. Buds, it's peak season right now. How's the park looking?
How is the park? How are the 8 parks doing?
How are they doing?
It's peak season. They are firing right now.
Firing.
3 half pipes spread around that mountain. I mean, this mountain is going off right now.
The park, I'm guessing, is so good right now, you could probably dust off a Switch McTwist right now.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm getting old, but a little practice, maybe.
We're still pushing for the rename of the mini pipe to Buds' mini pipe.
Or Buds' little playground. Either way.
I don't know how well that one would do.
All right, Buds' mini pipe.
So if you, one thing that's cool, if you know the Name That Video part 2 and you comment on it, you get 4 tickets from our friends over at Mammoth.
4 tickets. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Bring your crew.
You bring your crew. If you got, if you're single parent and you got 3 kids, you could bring 4. You could bring 3 friends. You could bring 3 strangers.
You could bring 3 strangers. Yeah. That'd actually be the pretty dope move.
Yeah,
right
just pick 3 random strangers and say, hey, you want to go to Mammoth?
Make their day. Let them experience that grandiose mountain.
Absolutely. Mammoth is a big supporter of the show. So be sure to show them some love and tag them at Mammoth Mountain. Blue, how are you feeling?
Oh, man. Confidence level just diminished.
The whole episode just got deflated when you heard that theme song come on. Confidence level 0 through 10.
Let's go 3.
3. Okay. All right, let's see how you do here, Blue. This could be big for your credibility. Here we go. Your oldest brother never came back from the war.
So I don't know, but just stylistically, that sounds like a Whitey movie.
That's Hard, Hungry, and
Yeah, I was
Homeless.
going to say HHH.
Oh, okay. So if it's Hard, Hungry, and the Homeless, then
I don't know which rider, though.
if you're teeing it up for me, I would assume it has to have some Midwest roots. So I'm going maybe Roan Rogers on that one.
We've done Roan before. That's Noah Selaznick.
Oh, no. Okay. All right.
I just went
Cool.
HHH. I thought that was your era. I thought that was in your wheelhouse.
That is.
It should have been, but it's been a long time,
It's
right?
been a long time, yeah. But hey, here's to Noah, man. What an amazing
Yeah.
dude and snowboarder and contributor to snowboard history.
R.I.P.
It's actually really good for me to go back and watch that part for inspo. It's so sick how the videos were back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, just the simple joys of watching somebody do a melon grab off of a bump and
Yeah,
poke
and he
it
had
all
that
sick.
tweak.
You know.
You still get a participation award, my friend.
Oh yeah, you do.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
We're not going
ran
to
out
send
of
you home
coolers.
empty-handed.
What's he getting, buds?
You get a box of goods.
All right.
Courtesy of the Bomb Hole.
Sweet.
All
Thank
available at bombhole.com. You got mugs. You got all sorts of nice stuff in there.
you. Burgundy snowboard mug.
Big
Little
burgundy.
little care package, if you will.
Thank you guys.
Probably an air freshener, probably some sort of hat or
Really,
shirt.
really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. For
No
part
cooler,
for
though.
part 2, this goes to the listeners. If you know the video part, when this episode comes out, comment on the photo of Blue on our Instagram. That's where we pick our winner for name that video part, and let's see how you do. Okay, thank you
Wow.
guys for playing Name That Video Part.
tough one. Just someone banging on a glass bottle or something there.
That's actually, I can't actually mention because it'll
Was
give
it
it away.
What's his name? Gonna maybe guess that.
Okay, Blue. Well, I've heard you mention this before, and our listeners may be unfamiliar, but I've heard you talk about your war on Cheeto fingers. Now, I'd love for you to elaborate for those who are unfamiliar.
That's right, Chris. I am actually at war with Cheeto fingers. So what Cheeto fingers is all about is, I just have a desire to get these kids off the couch, get them to put the bag of Cheetos down. Their eyes are bleeding from the screen. They got blisters on the fingers from the damn video game controller. Let's get them outside, breathing some fresh air, having some fun, And why is it a war? Well, it's challenging because what they're seeing on that couch is very stimulating. And I feel like it's being harder and harder to engage kids in snowboarding because our industry is getting more conservative. And you look in the past in different eras of snowboard history, I mean, snowboarding used to be bad. Snowboarding, skiers hated us. People didn't want us around. And there's the whiskey legacy and the debauchery and the punk rock era and all that stuff. And, I'm not saying that we go back there, but when snowboarding was bad, it was fun and it was engaging and it stimulated teenagers and wanted us to get out there. And now I think that there's this desire from the industry, and I don't even know who that is. I don't even know who I'm talking about when I say the industry, but there's this desire to be accepted in the mainstream, to be a sport, to be an activity, and everybody so badly doesn't want to offend anybody, and everybody's so easily offended these days. And man, like when you make snowboards, now there's like rules from retailers, not just one retailer, a bunch of retailers, like of things that you can't do as a snowboard brand. Like you can't make a snowboard graphic that has nudity on it. You can't have profanity on it. You can't have guns on it. You can't have religion on it. You can't have any societal touch points on it. I mean, you can, but no retailer will buy it.
You're not going to sell them, huh?
And I'm just like, for a certain part of our audience that we are trying to engage, if you think the art on snowboards is offensive, you just don't know the content in video games and movies and popular culture and pop music. You're not plugged into what kids are doing, And so I'm not like, I'm not advocating for like irreverence for the sake of irreverence. But my goal, like the goal I want to send to the mom and dads with credit cards, the conservative parents, the retail buyers, I say, we're on the same team. We want the same thing. You know, we want to get kids off the couch, put the Cheeto bag down, and let's use whatever resources that are at our disposal to do it. And if snowboards and art, because that's all snowboard graphics are, it's just art. If we can use snowboards and art to get kids off the couch, let's go.
Well said. Well said.
well
And
said.
I have a side footnote too. When you start a snowboard company, you know, in the same way Buds and I have started this thing, the whole fun concept behind especially products is, oh, I have an idea for a product. Let's just fucking make it. Let's make what we want. Let's make what we want. Let's not make what fits into like this, a retailer's box of approved things. But that's a huge part of it, is like, we want to make the products that we want to make. That's what makes it fun, right?
Yeah.
And then if all of a sudden, you know, snowboarding is not about rules. It's not about doing it's about going against the fucking rules, for that matter. And the more that you try to like choke down on it and make it this watered down thing, it's like you're cannibalizing it in some ways.
Well, there's a bunch of, you know, business reasons why people would want to take a conservative approach to product. You know, on one hand, the snowboarder isn't the same that it was. You know, now it's a much broader segment of society that snowboards, and we want to appeal to all these people, which is great. I want to too. You know, but there's always going to be this kind of core at the heartbeat of snowboard culture, and that's the younger guys and gals. You know, and let's just say for, you know, a 12 to 24-year-old age group, you know, and you know how hard it is to make something cool for those kids if you can't do anything even remotely dangerous.
Yeah, if you got to follow all those rules, huh?
Dude, danger is the core of cool. It really is.
It's a fact.
I like that epiphany, or
Yeah.
the way you've dissected that. That's incredible. There's also a degree of, maybe for better or worse, being a snowboarder that cares, right? That cares about the thing. You want snowboarding to look cool. You want snowboarding to be, when I when I watch a skateboard video, a lot of the ones I watch, I'm like, that shit looks cool. That looks awesome. Like, I'm proud to be a skateboarder. And you want the same thing with the products in snowboarding. You want the same thing with the videos in snowboarding. You want people to say, hey, I'm proud to be a part of this thing. And if you water all the products down, you lose some of that, I think, right?
Yeah.
It's not the shop's fault either. It's the people coming into the shops, the parents that are demanding it.
Yeah. The good thing is, though, I think the flip side to that is, as snowboarding has a wider customer base that's come in, I think the industry has really focused on technology and the snowboarding experience. And I would say that is the ultimate positive, you know, where snowboarding used to be so much about image and so much about art and so much about graphics. You know, now it's really about what makes this experience easier, what makes this experience more inviting, and what ultimately brings more people into the sport. And, you know, we've focused on that too, and done a lot of technological advancements in the products, and so I think there's that's kind of where the balance currently lies. You know,
Well said. Well said. And there is no quote unquote core snowboarder without the beginner snowboarder. Every snowboarder is a beginner at some point. You got to get
Everyone
into it.
starts somewhere.
One thing before, we're going to obviously cover the story of CAPiTA and founding it. That we're going to get into that in a little bit. That's, you know, going to be awesome. I can't wait to dive into that. But before we do, you know, personally fascinated with the fact that you're a parent and that part of your life. And one thing I want to ask you about is, when I look at you, you seem like somebody that's like found balance with running a company and managing your family. And I'm personally interested, like, how did you find your balance?
The balance has changed over the years, of course, but right now I find the balance is very simply that I'm a family man first, I'm a dad first, and I 100% prioritize my kids and my family. And that's it. That's where my emotional energy goes, and all of my emotional energy goes to the kids. That said, you know, CAPiTA and snowboarding is something that's so deep in my heart and so deep in my soul. And snowboarding is the thing that's enabled me to meet my wife, and it's enabled me to provide for our life, and it's something wonderful that I get to share with my kids. And when I have that experience, it inspires me to be better at my job and give more on the CAPiTA end and the union end, you know? And so it's almost this like cycle that happens where there's no mistaking I'm a family first type person. You know, some people work to live and some people live to work. And, you know, I work to live. I put a premium and a priority on the family, but that all works together. And if you do it right, and if you are fulfilled at home, that fills you full of energy and strength to be the best that you can be, you know, at your job.
Wow. Well said. That was something I needed to hear. So I really appreciate that. And as far as your parenting, I know you have kind of an analog approach to parenting.
Yeah, we are definitely big analog parents. So, you know, I'm not delusional. I understand that my kids are living in a different world. They're living in the age of technology. We want them to be proficient in the world in which they'll live. And so we're not like anti-technology people or anti-screen people. But we know that they will get that experience elsewhere. They get it at friends' houses when they go over and play. They get it at school, which to my dismay, they have, you know, screens in first grade in public schools, you know.
First grade.
Yeah. So at home, we put a premium on analog experiences. We believe that gives a strong emotional foundation for life. And for us, it's never been like a gender thing. You know, Jackie and I didn't find out the gender of our kids, and it had nothing to do with this big reveal or a big secret. It had everything to do with, you know, our philosophy that we weren't trying to raise, you know, little girls or little boys. We're trying to raise good humans and good kids. And to a certain age, this family's going to do what this family's going to do. And it doesn't matter if they're girls or boys. So we hike and we bike and we fish and we camp and we ski and we snowboard and we are outdoors a lot. And we just really believe that that's just going to give them a great foundation.
Yeah, a lot of parents still even take their kids camping and throw them with an iPod in the or an iPad in the corner on the tent or whatever, and just let them do that instead of actually experience what they're out there to do. So that's cool. You
know, getting your kids out there young. We are kids out there real young. And it's kind of funny when you're in nature with real young kids, whether it's at the ski resort or out in the mountains or camping summer, winter, it doesn't matter. I have found two types of responses. You get judgment either way, but you get some people that are like, fuck yes, you know, hell yeah, dad, like way to go. And then you get people that completely judge you for, especially when your kids are like real little, you know? And then, but I just think that this is kind of the importance of preparation and the importance of gear. It really doesn't matter if you're, you know, 3 or if you're 30. If you're wet and you're cold, you're not going to have fun. And if you're dry and you're warm, that puts you in a position to have fun. And a lot of parents don't want to invest in good gear for kids because they grow so fast. And I understand it's expensive. But because kids grow so fast, there's so many opportunities to get hand-me-down stuff and secondhand stuff. But the one thing I'd say to parents out there is, you know, if you want your kids to like it, you got to have gear. They got to be warm. They got to be dry.
Yeah, you take them snowboarding cold, they're never going to want to go back.
Yeah, and you know, you're totally right. And that kind of comes back to, you know, Jackie and I have very carefully curated the outdoor adventure and the outdoor experience. And what I mean by that is we've set them up for success in nature. And we've done that, one, by gear. We've done that, two, by layers. I call it layers of experiences. So we take them up for just real short time, real short time, real short time, real short time. Make sure they have fun every time. And this is really hard to do because, like, sometimes if you're a parent, you understand, like, just getting the kids out of the house is hard. Getting all the gear together, getting them in the damn car, and then that can take an hour or more, and then you drive an hour more to the resort, and sometimes you're there for 15 minutes and you leave. You know how many days I've spent an hour getting ready, hour to drive there, hour to drive back, hour deep. I'm 4 hours in for a 15-minute experience. But I've done that over and over and over again because you got to get them up there and you got to leave before they're ready to leave, you know? And if your kids are crying on the hill, you're fucking blowing it. You're up there too long.
Yeah.
And if you know that you say, kids, get in the car, and your kids are crying and throw a fit because they don't want to leave the mountain, that's when you're doing it right.
Yes.
So you got to leave that mountain 10 minutes before they want to leave the mountain. And another thing, I always, we incentivize the experience. So, at home we don't have, our household, we don't have a lot of candy and sweets. Our house isn't the kind of house where there's just like cookies and stuff like hanging out, but we use that to reinforce positive experiences. So we call Skittles fun pellets. And Lily's like, when Lily was 2 years old, Lily in the truck, fun pellet, boom. Lily in the ski area parking lot, fun pellet, boom. Get Lily to the magic carpet, fun pellet, boom. Top of the magic carpet, fun pellet. Down on a snowboard, fun pellet.
Reminds me of a lot of training my dog.
That's how he trained his dog.
You know what? It's not so different. It's a positive reinforcement for an experience, and it's very similar. Some people are saying, "Oh, that doesn't work. You shouldn't do that." But I'll tell you, it works for us.
Yeah, it sounds like, especially if they don't get it at home, right?
Yeah.
When I think back of my childhood too, my fondest experiences are skiing and snowboarding and all of that. So it's cool that you're doing that for your kids. Yeah,
I love it, man. I just, I'm just so excited. So the kids ski and snowboard both, and Maddie's 6 and ripping on skis and still working on her snowboarding, and Lily, all she wants to do is snowboard. But when she gets a little bit older and this family's getting ready to like go, together, like, man, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's going to be sick.
That's killer. Along these lines, I think we have a perfect Patreon question that kind of ties into this topic.
All right, we have a Patreon question from Eric Leon. Hey, Blue, stoked to meet you a few times over the years. Let's hear about your new side hobby of BMX racing. How did you get into it, and what has it provided you in the off-season?
Eric, what is up? Thank you for the question. Always love running into you. Our conversations are great. Eric's awesome, man. Eric's one of those dudes. He's a ripping snowboarder, but his approach is about more than snowboarding. He really cares about the environment and aligns himself with brands that are doing things the right way. So congratulations to you. So, yeah, I mean, that's part of our whole path. It's like, is it weird that, I run a snowboard company and my kids ski and snowboard? Well, our attitude is we want our kids to fall in love with nature. And I really don't care what the kids do up there, as long as they're having fun. And, I'd go up there, I'd put skis in the car, snowboards in the car, sleds in the car. We're just going to the mountain, and when we get out, do whatever you want. Let's have fun. And so we're always looking for fun things to do. And when COVID hit, as a parent, we couldn't do a lot of the activities. Like we couldn't do soccer anymore. We couldn't do gymnastics anymore. We couldn't do dance anymore. And Maddie, we live right by this BMX track, and I'd never been there before. So I took Maddie there. She learned how to ride a bike, and she rode there a couple times and had fun. And since then, we have just dove like head first into BMX, and it's awesome. As a kid, I never raced BMX. I never had a BMX bike. Bikes haven't been a big part of my past. I've skateboarded and snowboarded my whole life. That's it, And here's what I've learned about BMX. In terms of like youth sports, one, it's accessible. You think about select soccer, dance, all this stuff, it's expensive. And even in snowboarding, we're trying to find ways to make it more equitable and accessible. But with the rising cost of lift tickets and gear, it's a hard problem to solve. And BMX, if you tracks in a public park, you can go ride for free. Race day costs all you need is a bike and $8. And for kids, it's 100% participation. No kid sits on the bench. And it's especially empowering for little girls. And, you think about the gender divide in sports in our society. There's this presumption from the very beginning that girls aren't even capable to compete against guys without even finding out. It's why we have baseball, we have softball, we have men's and women's soccer. And, even in snowboarding, we strive for more parity and equal prize money. But, the girls don't compete head to head against the boys. And BMX, how it starts, regardless of age, if you're, could be 5 years old. He could be 35 years old. When you start, it's a non-gender defined sport. Everybody races everybody. And the only way to move up is to win. And so if you go to a race and you see a race of all girls, that's the girls' expert class, those girls had to beat the boys their age and proficiency 10 times. So think about that. These girls, they didn't just string together like a 2nd, 4th, 7th, 12th place finish. They didn't get lucky and beat the boys once. They beat the boys 10 times. And so what that means is these girls aren't pretty good for a girl. They're just good. And as a parent, I love the lessons that my girls can find out there that I don't have to teach, that we don't have to teach. And one of the lessons that they're learning from BMX is, like, I don't know what they're going to do when they grow up. But the lesson is someday you want to be a pretty good dentist for a girl, or do you want to be a good dentist? Yeah. Do you want to be a pretty good artist for a girl, or do you want to be a good artist? Because at BMX, these girls are not pretty good for a girl. They're just good.
That's cool. I did not know that about BMX.
Well said. Incredible. And a couple of sidebars in that I think are also good, that I like about those type of sports. When you take BMX, I always talk about on the show, it always goes to like motocross. I'm a fanatic riding dirt bikes, and you either win or you're faster. It's not subjective, which I think is really cool. Like, you want to get better, be faster. It's nobody else's fault. It's all up to you of whether you're faster or not faster than that other person. So there's nobody to blame. Oh, he didn't pass me the puck or whatever team shit or however you can get into it. Snowboarding subjective. I mean, I did a 900 and he held his grab longer, whatever it is, And then one other thing I also wanted to pick your brain on from your experience. How does it feel to be kind of a novice at something to start? You've done skateboarding and snowboarding your whole life. Now you go into BMX and you're a beginner again.
Yeah, that part was a trip, man, because in the community, there are so many parallels with snowboarding and skateboarding. But as the activity, it's totally different. Like when we started, I didn't even know how to change a tire. I don't know anything about gearing. I don't know anything about the bikes, the sizes, even what kind of bike you should get. I know nothing about it. And one big difference as we started racing, I mean, we raced a lot. Like I raced over 50 races in the last year, and, in my mind, I understand the lines and the flow and the transition and all that stuff. But what's really different is the level of fitness required and the price you pay when you fall. Falling on a bike hurts, and, you can get hurt. And I spent a lot of my last year, on one hand, I'm excited to go into this winter because I feel stronger and in a better level of physical fitness than I have in years. But on the other hand, I've been fucking broke off for half the year, And so, just like that has been a huge thing. But, in terms of the community, there's just so many great people, and it's just been a lot of fun. And again, for kids, it's just breathing fresh air and, and being outside and doing fun stuff. It's awesome.
A couple parallels too. I want to kind of connect on there too. The Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Have you ever read that? But it's real stuff. Like, and same with the BMX. That's the one thing I do miss about snowboarding. Sure, you can take your time and curate your setup and put your stickers on, but it's not something that requires daily maintenance. And I'll tell my lady, I'll just be like, hey, Leah, give me 2 hours. I'm going in the garage, and that's my time to like kind of have with myself and turn some wrenches and I don't know why I love that, but it's probably the same in BMX, right?
Yeah, tinkering's fun.
Yeah.
Going back to the boat thing, I love being on the dock talking to the old dudes and just tinkering on boats. And I love being in the pits, talking to dudes about bikes, tinkering, learning more about it, and it's fun.
And I heard you got some good results this year.
We did, yeah. So Maddie was a 6-year-old expert girl Washington State champion.
Ooh.
And Northwest Series number 2.
So she's loving it.
It's called Gold Cup. It's like the Northwest Series. So she got number 2.
It's incredible.
And what kind of number plates are we looking at?
So she got a gold number 2 and a blue number 1 for expert state champ. And then I got a couple of number 1 plates myself.
Wow.
Really?
Got the number 1 plates.
Look at the Montgomery family out there just crushing it.
Trophy, just stacks of trophies.
Yeah, stacks of trophies in the trophy room.
Here's the thing about BMX. You stack some trophies. Maddie's stacking some trophies. But the thing is, it's like you got to earn those trophies because you go to that race, you get fourth place. Guess what they give you? Nothing.
Nada.
So you go there and you get first to third. Then you get to go home with a little reward.
You're coming home a champion.
And then you want to get faster and you want to get on top of the box, and it's addictive.
That's awesome. Number ones, you two. It's incredible.
It's fun. Yeah,
Fastest family in the Northwest, I've heard.
I've been racing in the intermediate class, got my 10 wins out of the novice class, but intermediate. And that's kind of the sweet spot because if you get 20 more wins, you go to expert, and then I'll have like zero chance.
Yeah, then you're going to be in big trouble.
Those are the dogs that haven't stopped since 1981.
Yeah. They're ready to do this.
Another thing I've noticed too is like one thing that's refreshing for me racing motocross is I race intermediate, same thing, race novice, intermediate, depends on the race, but I'm not particularly great at it. But when I go back to my skateboard, my snowboard, it's really nice to have this humbling thing. It's like puts your ego in check. You realize you're a beginner. You're at the beginning of a learning curve, so everything's happening kind of fast. You're progressing at a very trackable rate, you could say. And then you get back on your snowboard and you're like, oh yeah, I'm fucking good at this. Like this is fun. That's a confidence builder. Yeah, it's been a good confidence builder. Good to break down the ego too.
What's been eye-opening for me is just the bike skills because I have none and they're specific. And I remember one of my racers is like a guy that does the MC at the race, and the gate drops and drop in. One race, he's like, "Here comes Blue." He's going a little faster than his skill set. And,
you heard him say that.
And I heard him in mid-race. But that's like a metaphor for my life. I've been going a little faster than my skill set this whole time. So it's been working out. I think I'm just going to stick with it.
Usually you would not hear anything they're saying. You're like, huh?
Well, we got a cool deal that we should talk about right behind you. Let's talk about this albino black snowboard of death.
So yeah, I brought a gem with me here. So if you're a CAPiTA fan, you know that the black snowboard of death was the very first snowboard that we ever made. It was actually originally the Kevin Jones black snowboard of death, but he decided to do Genius instead of CAPiTA at the time, and it's too late for us to change. And so we just took his name off it and called it the black snowboard of death. But it's the only line that's lasted the entire history of the company. And this is the 20th anniversary Black Snowboard of Death from last year. And we made a white one. There's only 2 that were pressed. One is in the company archive. So this is kind of a one of one in the wild. So it's a very, very rare. And so if you're a snowboard collector or a fan of CAPiTA, you just like rare stuff to hang on the wall and collect, this would be a good one.
People like rare stuff.
Yeah, so I brought it because there's something dear to my heart that I'd like to raise some money for. So I'm kind of hoping that we could do an auction. But there's when we started racing BMX, there's a track nearby our house. It's called SeaTac BMX. And SeaTac actually has ties to snowboard history because in the 80s, Craig Kelly used to race all over Washington, but used to race at this track too. And he'd battle this guy named Gary Ellis. And Craig ended up being Craig Kelly, one of the pillars of our industry and one of the greats of all time. And Gary, the lumberjack Ellis, ended up being 4-time world champion BMX and like one of the pillars of that industry. And it's really cool how these like teenage kids battle it out. But since then, this track has a serious legacy. It's grown 3 other world champions, an Olympic medalist, and Jill Kintner. The current 2021 United States Amateur National Champion, Sean Day from Tacoma, grew up right in there. Then even crossover athletes, like right now the number 2 in the downhill world tour, Kealani Hines, mountain bike tour, grew up in Burien racing there. So there's this legacy, this really rich legacy at this track. But the track is antiquated and it's not up to modern standards, and in some ways it's unsafe. And I just was thinking about that, and I'm just like, it just didn't align in my head because let's just say our community was world renowned for world-class tennis talent, and we had multiple world champion and Olympic tennis players from our town. Don't you think we'd have some pretty good tennis courts?
Absolutely.
But in BMX, we don't. And, so I start looking into an original goal of how could we maybe align this track with its legacy. And when I start doing some research, I see it becomes more prevalent in my eyes. You go to these affluent communities that just have incredible resources for kids. And then you go to these less affluent communities that don't have incredible resources for kids. And don't you think as a society, we should be investing in all kids? Not just kids lucky enough to grow up in affluent neighborhoods. And so, I'm looking into what opportunities kids have for outdoor recreation in this area. And it's extremely limited. And I look into, the reality of youth. So we live south of Seattle. It's called South King County. The school system is called Highline School System, and that's where my kids go, So I live in this area. And it's an urban school district. There's 17,000 kids that go to school there, and 60% of the kids are on free or assisted lunch. So let's think about that for a second.
Yeah, that's a heavy number.
The biggest companies in the world are in Seattle, Washington. Amazon, Microsoft, Boeing, Starbucks, Costco, Expedia. The richest people in the world, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and literally thousands of people that have become millionaires from working at these companies. And with all of that excess of wealth, there's a school district where 60% of the families can't afford lunch. I mean, that's ridiculous.
That is ridiculous. That's a harsh number.
And then I learned that in South King County, there's 46 active gangs defined by the sheriff's department as a criminal organization of 15 or more people. And if that's not enough, 21% of the youth from the age 7 to 17 are designated as at an unhealthy weight, meaning they're either too lean by not enough food, or it's a youth obesity situation because of a lack of nutrients and a lack of fitness and recreation. So those statistics hit me hard, and these kids need help. They are lacking mentorship. They're lacking access to recreation. They're lacking basic fundamental things. And I'm not talking about a faraway land. I'm talking about the neighborhood in which I live. And so I have kind of a dream, of being able to use this as an opportunity to give back. Now, I understand, if we're talking about climate change, we're talking about social justice issues, we're talking about other societal issues. These are complicated problems to solve. And I don't pretend to have the answers to any of it. But I think if we all sit back and wait for somebody else to come with this grand solution, it never comes. And my thought is, if each and every one of us just do something, albeit small, if we just do something instead of nothing, we can change the world. And so in addition to, the responsible manufacturing, clean energy initiatives of the CAPiTA, and for me personally, as a person, what am I going to do outside the work to give back? I have a dream to resurrect this track as a certified nonprofit organization where we bring the track back to modern standards, where we can host championship races, where we have community outreach, mentorship for kids, accredited coaching for kids, access to bikes and helmets for youth that can't, that aren't in a financial position to do it, and just create a positive outlet for kids in South King County. So I realize here this is a snowboarding podcast. I think there's probably some people, like Eric, that grew up racing BMX that get it and see the positives, from the experience. I understand that most people listening today, don't know about BMX and probably don't care. But here's the one thing I know for sure. If there is anybody on this planet that understands how being outside with your friends, having fun, catching a little air and getting rad can positively impact a young person's life, it's snowboarders. And that's all I'm trying to do here, is just get a little bit rad and positively impact a couple of kids' lives.
Beautiful.
So what I'm asking is for help. to do what we want to do, it's going to take a lot of time, effort, energy, a lot of money, a lot of resources. And so if we can start here today as a first step on the bomb hole, I'd really appreciate it. If there's anybody listening that happens to be in a blessed financial position and would be interested in discussing a donation to a nonprofit for youth, feel free to DM me. I'd love to have a conversation. But for anybody else, if you just have a little bit you'd love to chip in, we're going to do a raffle for this albino black snowboarder. What's going to a good cause? Let's call it the white snowboard of life.
The white snowboard of life.
This is the white snowboard of life.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that thing is amazing looking.
So there's one in the CAPiTA archives. This is the only other one exists. So I'll sign it.
Heavy.
I'll sign it, and it can be a little piece. Only white one we've ever made in 21 years.
And then we'll make it really easy. You can just go on bombhole.com, buy a raffle ticket.
Or 10.
Or buy 50 raffle tickets.
However.
And what's the name of the nonprofit so people if they wanted to donate directly? Is it?
The name of the track is CTAC BMX. So
we'll have a link if you're listening to it on the audio in the show notes or in the YouTube in the description, we'll have a link to that. And then just to make it easy, you can donate on bombhole.com by buying a few raffle tickets. And that's huge. And also sidebar too. I mean, you articulated it perfectly. And I get emotional talking about these spaces because it doesn't matter if it's a BMX track or it's a skateboard park, or it's a goddamn basketball hoop. They're all so important for kids, and especially kids in neighborhoods where they're lower income, because chances are their home life probably has some stuff going on. If you don't like your home life and you don't like being at home, skate parks, BMX tracks, places like that are more sacred than a fucking church. Like I can't even put it into words how important those spaces are. So I'm right there with you, and I appreciate what you're doing with that, Blue. It's gonna be awesome.
Thank you. Anybody that wants to participate, thank you very, very much. Really appreciate it.
So we're gonna get into a Patreon question, Blue. This one is from Mike McClutch. As a founder of CAPiTA, was it ever doomsday on the horizon?
Mike. Well, thanks for the question. That's a great one. Well, the honest answer is yes, many times. And, some of it was difficult to deal with. I think, as a person, I was just born happy. I'm a happy dude. I'm a glasses half full kind of person, and I always have been. But I'm not immune to, the pressures and hardships that come through life. And, was it ever doomsday for CAPiTA? Well, when we started, people were like, hey, we like you guys, but there's no way this is going to work. I guarantee CAPiTA goes out of business in 2 years. And the reality is we were almost out of business every other Wednesday. There was tremendous financial pressure. I'll say snowboarding, that's been the easy part. The hardest part in the last 20 years with CAPiTA has been, finance-related issues. And I think for a lot of people, they maybe romanticize the idea of being like a company founder or like a CEO or something like that, But I can assure you it comes with a lot of pressure and accountability. And in those early years, we were an underfunded, understaffed company. And we got our boards made in Canada at a factory, wonderful people, but it was an underfunded, understaffed company. And one of my first lessons as an entrepreneur is your supplier's problems can and will become your problems. And so I remember, there'd be days on Tuesday where the factory would call and they'd be like, Blue, we're out of money. We need $70,000 by Thursday, or we're going to have to close our doors and go out of business. And if we go out of business, you're going to go out of business. So, okay, I need $70,000 by Thursday, but I don't have rich parents and I don't have a trust fund and I've never done this before and I don't have any collateral. How the fuck am I going to get $70,000 by Thursday? So I got myself in a position where I take small loans and borrow here and there and take out a credit card, another credit card, another credit card, and I at one point had, $60,000, $70,000 on my own personal credit cards at 18 to 20% interest. Meanwhile, showing a happy face, telling everybody, everything's good, dude. Everything, we're killing it, bro. you know? And we were killing it. We were killing it in so many ways. We were fucking crushing it, you know? The early days of CAPiTA were just magical days, but it was hard, and I was under a lot of pressure. And then a sequence of events happened that was kind of life-altering, you know, one of which, Ethan, you know, we experienced together, unfortunately. And that was a day in Japan, and it was beautiful day, POW day, so much fun.
It's your birthday.
It was my birthday. Yeah, we had a birthday party, and it was like the best day ever that went to the worst day ever, because that was the night that Jeff Anderson died.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of people don't know, you know, Chris, you might not even know, but Ethan was the last person with Jeff before the accident, and I was the first person to Jeff after the accident. And you know, you can remember it was
crazy. Me and him had just come, you know that, what's the movie Step Brothers, where they became best friends? Jeffy and I became best friends that night. And it was, tough scenario.
Yeah, my birthday party, we bought a bottle of Bombay Sapphire, and we all drank it together, and we all like took out a marker and signed it. And I still have the bottle, but on the top of it, it says, "I am Blue, I am you, Jeff Anderson." And, but you know, that experience, you know, just so much love and appreciation for Jeff. He's just such an incredible person, and, you know, an indefinite, you know, legacy on snowboard history. But that night, you know, I know it was traumatic for you.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of PTSD I probably still haven't even reconciled with, I imagine.
So I was the first one on the scene, and I did my best to use the, you know, training that we've had over the years with, you know, first aid and responding. And so I tried to resuscitate him and give mouth-to-mouth CPR, and Romain Marky was there, and Marc-Franc Montoya was there in a moment. And, you know, I've experienced a lot of death in my life, unfortunately. You know, started young. You know, my 7th grade, middle school special friend, crush, probably died in a car accident in 7th grade. And I've had friends that, one friend got hit by a train, and friends have died in the rivers and in the mountains and in avalanches. And, you know, even myself, you know, I've been in AVI situations and flash floods, and I've had somebody point a loaded gun at me and told me they're going to kill me 3 times in my life. You know, I've used up basically 6 of my 9 lives already, but none of those experiences affected me the way the Jeff Anderson experience did. You know, it was the first time in my life I've ever been in a clinical state of shock. First time in my life, the first event in my life that's ever given me, you know, PTSD. And at the time, I didn't talk to anybody about it. Now, I can say that I didn't have anybody to talk about it, but truth is I've been blessed with some pretty good friends in my life, great friends. And so I just didn't find an outlet to talk about the pressure that I was under with CAPiTA, having my hearts and set on something so dedicated and just redlining on a daily basis. And then coming home from the Jeff Anderson experience in Japan. And then these dominoes started to fall. First thing that happened, my dad had a stroke and couldn't talk. And that hit me really, really hard for how close that we were. And then after that, Bubba the bulldog died.
That was tough.
He died of heart disease at 5 years old. And Bubba was my kid before I had real kids. I mean, I fucking loved that dog. I was devastated when that happened. You know, and on top of that, I allowed myself to be in an unhealthy, toxic, romantic relationship, and that just did not help the scenario. And so I think, you know, I'm a very resilient person, and any one of those things individually I could have handled, but the weight of all of them collectively, I couldn't bear, you know. And, you know, I cracked, and you never know when you're going to crack. And for me, I was just walking down the street one day, walking down the street. And I don't know why they picked me, but some dudes got aggressive and started, you know, messing with me. And I didn't know them, and it was totally random. And without even skipping a beat, I marched right over there and just started fucking throwing haymakers, you know. And an altercation ensued, and it wasn't good. And especially for me, it was on private property, and a police officer happened to see the whole thing. So I went to jail. And man, that's just not a good experience.
Were you drinking?
Yeah, I was drinking. Yeah, before then, and that certainly didn't help.
Because I've never really known you to be a fighter.
I'm not. You know, I'm a happy person. I'm not a violent person. I'm not a reactive person. I'm a very happy person, and that's when you do something out of character. When you don't get the help that you need, or you don't vent, you know, or you don't get a release that you need, then sometimes that it's going to emerge anyway, and it emerges in very unhealthy ways. You know, so I remember being in jail for what seemed like forever. I mean, minutes in that place feels like hours, days. And they finally call my name, and I'm just like, thank you, I'm getting out. And they called my name. They gave me the jumpsuit and sent me upstairs to 9th Florida general population. And I just can't even explain that experience. I mean, walking into a room full of gnarly dudes and none of them want to be your friend. And it's a very manipulative environment, a very intense environment, and not one that I would wish on my worst enemy. I had a horrible experience in there.
Was this in Seattle?
Yeah, it was in Seattle.
And
yeah.
how long were we talking?
Downtown King County Jail, you know. So it was 2 days, which felt like a long ass time.
Yeah.
You know, so finally I get out of there, you know, and I'm thinking that that's my rock bottom in life. And, you know, when you get up there, it's one thing when, you know, it's like you feel sorry for yourself or you have like this woe is me moment. But when I was up there, it was something different. It was like a deep disappointment when your own actions don't align with your ideals. You know, when your own actions don't align with who you see yourself as a human being. And that's where I was. I was just extremely, extremely disappointed in myself, you know? Yeah, and so that was almost rock bottom. And then 2 weeks later, I fell head first through a 10-foot plate glass window and almost died. Yeah, it wasn't a safety glass that shattered. It was like I fell in plates on my back and my arm. And I'm really lucky that it didn't fall on my head or my neck or something else. So I'm in the emergency room and I got staples and stitches all over. And it was that moment where I had a moment of clarity. And you see, I believe deeply in the law of attraction and the power of positivity and negativity. And I believe in cosmic vibration, manipulation, and quantum physics. And I believe that we can create our own reality by the words that we use in our own head. And it was at that moment in the emergency room where I'm like, this is not who I am, and this is not the life that I'm going to live. So you keep in mind, I was 29 years old. I'm 47 now. So this is a long time ago. But I said right then and there, my birthday was coming up it was like, I was kind of in this cloud for a year. And I said, you know, on my 30th birthday, when I wake up, I'm going to change my life. And I'm going to fill my life full of positivity and positive energy. And that doesn't mean like breathing positivity in and exhaling negativity. That's not how you do it, because there is no negativity. You breathe in positivity, exhale positivity. It's a cycle where everything's positive. Those toxic relationships in your life, they got to go. And that was a hard thing for me because I was always taught in my roots that you got to stick by your friends and you got to be there for your friends. But a life lesson is being there to support your friends, to be a sounding board, to be a good listener, does not mean that you allow your friends' problems to become your problems. Their burden is not your burden. And it took me a long time to understand that, to let some of those relationships go. But the interesting thing is when I let those toxic relationships go and I really embraced positivity in my life, there's a book called the Magic of Believing that is a game changer. I recommend you go find it. But you have positivity in your life and you really, really believe with all of your soul in what you're doing. And things started to change. And it's remarkable how my life changed almost on the spot. Things started to flow in a positive direction and things got better. And when they got better, they got better and they got better. And, I look back and I think people say there's like a black cloud or a caught under a black cloud. I really think the black cloud is it's a real thing. And what it is when someone gets caught in a negative cycle, then more negative things happen. And when people are caught in a positive cycle, more positive things happen. And so you got to get yourself in a positive cycle. And so, a main takeaway from my experience that I would like to share with others is, I really do believe that you can create your own reality with the words you use in your own head. So choose wisely.
Interesting about being the positive person. I think sometimes those negative people really lay into the positive people and get close to you and all that. And so it's interesting you're able to shed that negativity in your life. And it's good that you did. And I see a lot of people with those dark clouds, and it's tough, man. They chase them around. So hopefully people listen to you and shed that cloud, be positive, make that difference.
Well, I think it requires some self-awareness. You have to realize that that's what's happening to you, because a lot of people don't realize. They're just like looking around. Why is all this bad stuff happening to me? I can't catch a break. How many times have you heard that? Somebody
They blame everybody else.
Blame
basically.
everybody else.
Must be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that.
Look at
Can't
that
catch a
guy.
break.
He's got everything.
Another sidebar I got to notice and highlight in what you're talking about is the beauty of hitting rock bottom too, because that's something, I'm in sobriety and we fucking talk about that stuff all the time in that little part of my life, and being miserable enough to make a change is huge. Like, sometimes you got to keep going down until you get miserable enough to make a fucking change. And then when you hit that rock bottom, that can be the best thing that ever happened to you, because you're like, okay, I'm fucking sick of this shit. I'm sick of it. And, that's a story amongst a lot of addicts. You see that a lot and alcoholics and stuff. And it's really powerful. And I was curious as a sidebar too, I like actionable advice. So when you're talking about, positivity, do you have any way to provide like context of like things you might say to yourself, positive versus negative, or a way to kind of actualize that?
I mean, the basics, I think there's words of affirmation, I believe work. I believe being plugged into, nature, or just recognizing, and I don't want to go down like a religious conversation here, but however you define it, understanding that there's something bigger than yourself, and connecting with that. So how do you connect with that? And I think at that point in my life too, I was spending a lot of my time in the city, more than I ever have in my life. I was unplugged from nature at that time in my life. I was unconnected from what makes me feel, whole. And so I think that that's a couple things. And also, I don't know what word you want to use. Prayer is the easiest one, but call it meditation, call it a release of cognitive thought. But every single night of my life, I sit there and give thanks and say thanks to the blessings in my life. I say thank you for my childhood, and thank you for my family, and thank you for my home, and thank you for this blessing of snowboarding in my life. And I go down the list and I say my prayers until I fall asleep every single night. So I know some people listening might really identify with that word prayer, and some people, it might really throw them off. So don't get hung up on the word. Don't get hung up on the word. Just understand the action, of having gratitude in your heart and having a cognitive release of emotion to show gratitude and say thank you for what you have. That goes a long way for channeling positivity in your life.
It's like identifying what you have and what's good and really hold on to it.
It's part of the process of releasing positivity into the universe and then getting positivity back. The most basic way to do that is to say thank you.
Mm-hmm. Also, sidebar too, when you're grateful and you're thankful and all those things, you're living in abundance already, so you don't need anything else. And that's kind of powerful too. Instead of living in lack, living in need, I wish I had this, I wish I had that. I'm thankful for this. It's fascinating. I love that type of stuff. I have a little book called The 5-Minute Journal. I gave one to Buds as well, but you write down everything you're thankful for before you go to bed, amongst a couple other things, what went good with the day, and what you could have done better, a little introspection. But it really helps. It can help flip it if you're looking for some actionable advice, not to hijack that conversation too much.
One takeaway I have from, sharing that story is that, I think we all have a track record, right? And, we're going to be held accountable for our actions. But I think it's important as individuals that we reserve the right to evolve, and we reserve the right to do better. And, it's like, I'll raise my hand. It's like, I fucked up, made some bad decisions. But, I'm not going to let that define me. And, I think professionally or personally, we're not going to be judged by our problems. We're going to be judged by how we deal with those problems. And every morning that I wake up, I am who I say I am, and I'm not who you say I am, and I'm not who you think that I might be. And so I would just encourage other people to be able to wipe the slate clean. If you made a mistake yesterday, don't let that linger into today. Wake up this morning and decide from the minute that you wake up who you're going to be today. And that's what I try to do. And each day that I wake up, I try to be better. And I try to be the best that I can be.
It's beautiful.
Well said. Well said. Well, we're moving right along here, Blue. And, I know talking to a lot of people that are interested in the CAPiTA story. So I got a great question from none other than friend of the show, Dan Breezy. Here we go.
Blue Mont, hey, it's Breezy. Question for you in regards to the early days of CAPiTA, say the first 3 to 5 years or even maybe 10 years. Did you guys have any major setbacks or detrimental errors that you made that almost wiped the company out? Did you guys ever almost lose the company in that first decade? And if so, what were they? And then if you had to put a point on it or a few points on it, what was it that made CAPiTA survive? Out of all the snowboarding brands that are started year after year, so many come and go. What was it, do you think, that actually made CAPiTA survive? Thanks, dude. Can't wait to hear your episode. Talk soon.
Love hearing his voice, huh?
Yeah, Breezy. I love Dan Breezy. Dan, what a great dude. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate the question. So, by the way, Dan Breezy, he's one of the gnarliest motherfuckers to ever strap on a snowboard. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you want to define who the best was or this and that. There's all these categories, but if you want to go into the most gnarly, he's one of the most gnarly ever.
Oh yeah.
So question, early days, I think I touched on it a little bit. The finance in the early days was definitely tricky. One of the experiences that almost sank the company, in 2007, we had our most popular snowboard, which was called the Stairmaster, and a raw material supplier changed the chemical composition of the top sheet, didn't tell us. We made all our boards, and the top sheet fell off of every single snowboard.
I remember this.
And it was harsh because that was like 75% of our sales. I mean, we were heavy Stairmaster company back then, and we would have been done. I mean, it just would have like sank the ship. And so how did we get over it? Well, we weren't the only company that it happened to. And some of the other companies tried to sweep it under the rug, tried to pretend like it didn't happen. And our approach at the time was 100% accountability, 100% ownership, 100% honesty. And so we just told every single retailer, told every single distributor, this is the situation. This is exactly what's going to happen. And we did our first and only in 21 years global recall of a product. And it was heavy on customer service, heavy on shipping bills. But I think our retail base really appreciated the honesty. And that's just one of the pillars of the company is just, being truthful being truthful and transparent with how we operate.
Only one in that many years?
I was the only one. Yeah.
That's great.
I mean, we've had like little things here and there, but in terms of like a widespread issue and a recall, that's the only one. 2007.
And it's all about how you handled it with the retailers that kept them around and kept them stoked. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So what was the last part of this question?
I think that was pretty much it.
Just
unforeseen obstacles, and then what separates you from the brands? I mean, you just pretty much answered it, right?
Oh yeah, well, I think what separates us from the other brand. This one is it's kind of more difficult to put your finger on, but I would say it's our group of people and how people have really bought into the company on multiple levels, and this is on a distributor level. I mean, they're not legally our partners, but they act in a way that looks like a partnership. and how the team riders are emotionally invested into the company, and the reps are emotionally invested in the company, and retailers and shop kids love the company. There's this personal investment into the company that's really had us stand out from others. And specifically, it's, I think, our partnership and ownership group. So in 2003, we kind of formed a new partnership that reorganized CAPiTA, and we already had coal, and we founded C3, which is our distribution company for the United States and Canada. And in 2004, we founded the Union Binding Company. And this group of people, I'll be honest and transparent right here. It's an imperfect group, and we have imperfect relationships. But the truth is this: more intelligent people than us, more educated people than us, better financed people than us, more experienced people than us have tried and failed many, many times in a row. And we have continued to build assets and build something that is, dare I say, from my opinion, important to snowboarding. And so it's really a scenario where, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And there's a certain magic of our partnership group, albeit sometimes dysfunctional, sometimes functional. Either way, there's a magic there. And so I really appreciate the group, and I think the group effort is the reason for success. It's not any one person that's done it. It's the group that's done it.
Wow. Very, very well said.
It's obvious something's working over there.
Now, we kind of jump forward with that question, but I would be personally interested in the CAPiTA origin story.
Oh, so yeah, how CAPiTA got started. Well, so I was a pro snowboarder, and I was actually at a party in Bubba's bar, and I overheard Travis Parker talking about how K2 needed a new team manager. And I had just gotten fired, from my pro snowboard gig, and I was over it anyway. I mean, my whole goals with pro snowboarding, it was about chasing an experience. I never considered myself a professional athlete. I never really worked on the athletic craft. I was just in it to fly around the world and create memories, and I knew it wasn't going to last forever. And so when I heard Travis talking about, how K2 needed a new team manager, I was like, I can do that. And Haley Martin, who was the marketing director at the time, happened to be in Salt Lake City for a trade show, and I knocked the door down to get an interview, and so I got an interview, and some people might not like this, but this is true. In the interview, she asked me, if we hire you, what would you do? And I told her in the interview that I'd fire your whole team and start over. And now, did I fire the whole team and start over? No. But we did make some changes, significant ones. And I think sometimes that's what a company needs. They need an outside voice. They need somebody that's not emotionally tied to make some decisions that are obvious to every other person except for the people in the building, and they gave me the job. So what that says is that they also, knew that there needed to be a transition. So I moved to Seattle, fell in love with the Northwest. I actually had an incredible time at K2, and got to recreate that team, hired Bobby Meeks, hired Ville Ileloma, and Louis Fountain, and gave Travis Parker his first pro model. And
the Muska graphics iconic.
Yeah, at that time, Ville leaving the Forum 8, that was like a big deal. He was the first dude to leave the Forum 8. So we had a little moment there. It was fun. And, Luke Edgar, who worked at K2 at the time, works at Checker Girls now, is just such an awesome dude. And Haley was that whole crew back then was a good crew, and that's why the people have gone on to do good things, So, I was really good friends with Jason Brown, and we played in bands together, and there was this whole snowboard and rock scene going on back in Salt Lake at the time. I was in bands with Jason, I was in bands with Mike LeBlanc and Whitey, and it's what I love what Rav and Kokard are doing now, making music and generating content, going snowboarding, because 25 years ago, that's what we were doing, So anyway, Jason and I were good friends and played, and we were at this event And it was one of those indoor snowboard events. And Travis Barker, Kevin Jones, Jason Brown, and I put our hands in the middle, and we said, tomorrow we're all going to quit our jobs and start this snowboard company called CAPiTA. Okay, so I was pretty fired up. And the next day, I walk into Brent Turner's office as the VP at K2, and I handed him my letter of resignation. And he's just like, what do you mean you're quitting? You just got here. I worked at K2 for like 6 months. I wasn't there long, you know? And I looked at him just squared him up and said, you know, I'm going to quit. I'm going to start the greatest snowboarding company in the world. And if you're smart, you'll back it. And then I slid him another document and asked him for $5 million.
Oh!
So, you know, the audacity of a young kid that doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. That was my scenario. But I said that shit with a straight face. And bless his heart, Brant was such a nice guy. He didn't laugh. I can't believe he didn't laugh, you know? He actually gave me some really nice advice. He said, listen, he's like, you've done great things here. He's like, I really believe you have potential that you can do this. But I think you have a lot to learn about the business side of snowboarding. And you would probably benefit by staying here for a few more years and then try to do this. You know, and he's right. The truth is we had no idea what we were doing. No idea when we were getting started. But, you know, that's part of being like young and hungry and driven. At that point, like we were doing it. Nobody's going to tell us we're not going to do it. So that, you know, Brent gave me that parental advice that went right in one ear and right out the other ear, you know, because I quit on the spot.
Didn't take the advice.
Didn't get $5 million.
No, we did not. So then after that, you know, kind of Travis, you could tell had a heavy heart and wanted to do it, but he decided to stay at K2. And I understood because at K2, I was the one that wrote his contract, and it was a good one.
Right?
You know, it was a good one. Back then, Travis Parker was making some money and a pro model and all this stuff. And so when Travis decided that he didn't do it or wasn't going to do it, I was like, that's a bummer, you know, but I kind of understand. And then KJ kind of went like AWOL. And then Steve Asifin, his agent at the time, basically said, you know, like KJ has another opportunity and he's going to do Genius, the Genius brand instead. And so Jason and I were like, all right, you know, that's cool. You guys don't want to do it, but you should have fucking told me yesterday because I already quit my job. So we just had the attitude that, you know, okay, we're doing it anyway. And so we kind of reorganized our thoughts, and we had this like grand vision out of the gates, like how, you know, big it was going to be. And at the time, like people might not realize now, but in 1999, Kevin Jones, Jason Brown, Travis Parker has some like elite level stuff, you know? So yeah, we just kind of circled back and made it like a garage thing, and we founded the company out of a bedroom in my house in West Seattle. Ran it out of there for the first, you know, couple years, 2-3 years. Jason had lived in Vancouver and had like you know, kind of the creative team up there. I lived in Seattle and just paying my friends and pizza and beer and favors, you know, trying to get this thing off the ground. I didn't have any furniture. The living room was our warehouse. And that's, you know, in the early days, that's when something really, really big happened. But we met Ephraim, who is our creative director, and he designed our very first snowboard graphic. He designed the Merchant of Death skull. That was the first thing he ever did, because he was an art student at the time. And we told him we're starting a snowboard company. We need a graphic tomorrow, you know. And so he pulled it together. And over the last 21 years, he has done like, you know, the board, the artistic curation and the graphics and the trade show booths and the catalogs and, you know, the look and the feel, the brand. And he's just so much more than what he does, but he's an incredible person, and he's just part of the fabric of the brand. And we've been doing this together for over 20 years now, you know, so I just have so much appreciation for F. If we can do an air horn, he might need a super one, you know.
It's the super.
Yeah.
20 years of partnerships with the super.
Yeah, totally. So, you know, the early days were just raw, you know, and it was cool. And Luke McMaster is our first team rider, and TJ Schneider and Corey and Lepore were in early. Yeah, Lepore was awesome. Is awesome. He was so great. Corey Smith came in early, and Ryan Thompson, but just had such a great crew of people.
Seth Hewitt.
Yeah, Hewitt. Yeah. So then, in 2003, that's when kind of things changed, and Jason left, and then the new partnership group founded, and then after that, it's kind of been 2003 to 2021 is kind of that next era with the current partners and group of people.
Maybe 2003 till infinity.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, what's crazy about it is I feel like we're just getting started.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
We're 21 years in, and it really feels like the sky's the limit. And we've changed a lot, over time. I feel like I remember having a conversation early on how, people are just dying to like figure you out. They want to define you, they want to like say you're this thing, Chris Granny, you're this thing.
Put you in a box.
Stony Buds, East Stone, 40A, you're this. You put you on the box and you put you on the shelf. And when they can define you, then, you're no longer interesting. And it's this like consumer mentality where people just like consume and devour things and people, something to be one of those things. And, with CAPiTA, it's very difficult to consume and discard CAPiTA because CAPiTA is not any one thing. CAPiTA is continually in motion, and it's always morphing, and it's always evolving, and it has over time. And that's actually what our logo, the metaphor logo is. It's the circle with the pie-shaped pieces emanating from the central core. The centerpiece represents snowboarding, or specifically in this case, CAPiTA, what brings us together. And then the pie-shaped pieces are the passions in your life. And the logo itself is supposed to be unique for each individual, and it's supposed to change and morph over time. And that is a representation of that conversation, how CAPiTA will never, I guess, be, uncool because it will never be defined. It will never be figured out. You'll never be able to put it on a box and put it on the shelf and move on to the next thing.
So I have a question as you're talking. You guys always had there's been kind of a mantra on the board. I don't know if you call it that, but it would say, "We devour everything."
Yeah.
Does that pertain to any of that stuff?
Kind of. Yeah. It's just, we have like a lot of taglines and mantras over the year. We kind of have new ones every year, but yeah, it's a flip on that. It's like, we don't want people to devour us, but we're going to devour everything else.
Mm-hmm. Love that. Now I would love to revisit the Patreon question we asked earlier about a team rider, the question that you had. Buds, you want to cue that one up?
So we have another Patreon question for you, Blue. And this one is from Joseph McCarty. And he says, which CAPiTA rider has done the most to help build the brand, both past and present?
Thanks for the question, Joseph. That's a great one, and it's impossible to answer because we've had, over the course of CAPiTA history, our team riders represent more than their athletic achievement. And I think in a lot of companies, that's all they're expected to do is just snowboard. And at CAPiTA, you go back to the early days when I talk about Lepore and Corey and TJ, those guys were artists, and they not only were they, a part of conceptuating the artistic direction of the brand, but they actually did the art and did the snowboard graphics and created the look and feel of where we're going to go. And so you have this very art-rich origin with the team, and then you have this kind of middle era of snowboard when we have, like Craven and Breezy and Jonas Carlson emerging as just phenomenal snowboarders at the time, And then from there, the modern era, we have, the best snowboarders in the world. Maybe not like every best snowboarder in the world, but I think it would be hard-pressed to make an argument that Arthur Longo and Kazuhiro Kokobo and Scott Stevens and Jess Kamir aren't some of the best snowboarders in the world, And so I think it's impossible to pick one because they've all been contributors. But if I had to talk about a couple that stand out, I think with Scott Stevens, it's really interesting because there are some pro snowboarders that do things that the consumer could never, ever do, and they could never even try to do. You know, it's like the helicopter, film the helicopter, dropping in a line. Like, no consumer ever in their lifetime is going to get to do that. Okay, with Scott Stevens, they can't do what Scott does either, but they can try. They can go in the backyard and try. And I think that accessibility combined with his very unique athletic ability has what's catapulted, him into being like one of the real superstars of our sport, And another one obviously is Jess. A lot of companies have this kind of gal that check the box on the team, or maybe they hope that the girl sells, the women's products. But one thing that sets Jess Kamira apart is that at CAPiTA, she doesn't just sell our women's products. She sells all products. And I think women are inspired by her and what she does. And I think men really love her approach to snowboarding, and everybody feels the emotion in which she brings to her snowboarding. And she just markets the brand. She doesn't market women's snowboarding. And I think that's something that makes her involvement really powerful.
You guys have built a pretty incredible team over the years, and it continues to grow, and you guys keep fostering some young talent. And it's really cool to see people like Scott, who've been with you guys for so long and cares so much about, the brand still. You see the guy, he's got a CAPiTA sticker on his phone charger or something, and he's got a kid, and he's like, still so proud. And it seems like from the outside looking in, you guys have created a really strong sense of family, and everybody, whether it's a person that's bought a board from a store or a retailer or a rep or a rider, there's this kind of wanting to be a part that seems really strong with you guys.
Yeah, I think it's part of the way I look at business, and it's the more transactional this is, the less it means. And CAPiTA is not transactional. It's not a exchange of I give you this, you give me this. It's deeper than that. It's more emotional than that. And people have more of a connectivity to the people in CAPiTA and the products of CAPiTA and what we're doing. They feel a part of something. And so that's something that that we acknowledge, and I think that's part of being on our team. Let's be honest, there's a lot of really good professional level snowboarders out there. They don't really care if they ride for this company or that company. It's like, whatever, either one will work, what's the better deal? And at CAPiTA, those aren't the people that we want. We want the people that want to ride for CAPiTA and nothing else will do. Because those are the people that get it, and those are the people that are the ambassadors. You look at Kevin Backstrom. Kevin Backstrom rode CAPiTA boards for free for 3 years before he was on our pro team.
It's so sick.
Yeah, and it's like, Kevin, thank you. And talk about that dude. I mean, he does everything right. You should see him at like internal events, just communicating with everybody, and so personable and such a ripping. I mean, he's just fucking awesome. But he wanted to be on CAPiTA and nothing else would work. And that's something that happened early on. I remember when Morrow Snowboards went under and Tyler was huge back then. And Lepore calls me up and he's just like, I don't care what you got, what you can pay. Doesn't matter. I want to be on the CAPiTA team. I'm not riding for anybody else. Just send me a fucking board. That's it. And those are the people that can share your message, and they live it, they breathe it, they love it, and they help build the brand, So
I always see with the younger kids that is always awesome. These kids, the ones that just are emerging and they're starting to blow up, they ride for CAPiTA and they get their offers from these other companies, and they're just like, nah, they don't even want to entertain them.
Yeah.
Because they're just so hyped to be a part of CAPiTA. I saw it with Rav, I've seen it with a ton of kids. They're just not down to leave. They're just like, even if they're not getting paid, these are the AMs, the next wave of kids. Yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing, and it's honestly part of the process for us to find the right people. Because for someone like Rav that gets it and understands and wants to stay, for sure, in the history of the company, we've had people that just wanted the money and they've left, and that's fine. I don't want to make it sound like we don't pay our team riders. We do pay our team riders, but in history, it's like we probably weren't the highest bidder. Maybe they could have got more somewhere else. And the people that go take it, that's fine, because like they probably weren't living it and breathing it and loving it the way some of the other people do anyway, you know. So
Awesome.
And also another thing that's important with the snowboard industry as a whole, you want the snowboard industry. It's like fucking take control back of our snowboard industry. That's important, right? You know, whether you're riding for a fucking ski company or a whatever, you know, those at the end of the day, that money is going back to a gigantic conglomerate. And taking money from big companies is great. It helps pay the bills. It's fucking awesome for a rider. But like at the end of the day, you know, as the snowboard brands goes is how snowboarding goes. You know, so who controls the brands? It should be controlled by fucking snowboarders. You know, and that's important. And that's what's important on this show. We want to hammer that home too. It's important to support snowboarders. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I identify with that. I think it's important. I realize that it's not important to everybody. Some people just want good products and they don't really care. But, you know, I'd like to note that CAPiTA was founded by snowboarders. We're operated and run by snowboarders. We're still 21 years deep, independently owned. You know, my life, my house, still on the line, you know, partners are too, you know. And I think the thing is that's cool about our partner group is that we all have an employee role in addition to our ownership role. And so, you know, we're not going anywhere. And this is a lesson I learned, you know, back in my pro rider days is you got to ride for companies where there's somebody in a decision-making position that has your back. And oftentimes in these big companies, they hire smart kids that come through the pipeline quick, you know? So I remember back in the day, I rode for Oakley. Scott Farnsworth, ex-World Pro Surfer, was the team manager. Scott Farnsworth loved me, you know? I was on the team. I was like on Oakley feeling the love. And then Farney gets promoted. Somebody else gets the job. Guess what? He has his own dudes. I'm not one of his dudes. I went from 0 to 0 at Oakley like that, you know? And it can happen. It happens all the time. And so, you know, at CAPiTA, we've seen people leave, you know. Hewitt left, Jonas Carlson left, Kevin Jones left, Sage Katzenberg left. But did those guys find longevity where they went? They did not. Not a single one of them found longevity where they went. Did they have more short-term opportunity? Maybe, probably, sure. Did they leave for a reason? Sure. But over time, did they have the consistency, the longevity? Probably because the companies they went to, people were changing. Well, guess who's still here at CAPiTA? I'm still here. I'm still sitting in the chair. I'm not going anywhere. You know, so the kids that ride for CAPiTA, there's a different level of maybe confidence or peace of mind or consistency because, you know, we don't have to report to some ski company. We don't have to report to some corporate venture capitalist firm. We report to each other. This is our company. It's our deal. And for that, you know, I believe that skateboarders and snowboarders should be running the skateboard and snowboard industry. And there's plenty of smart, talented people that are capable to do it. And so why would we hand those keys to somebody else?
Well said. Snowboarders should support snowboarders. Mm-hmm. Fucking well said. So next docket on the CAPiTA storyline, man, we got to get into the factory. It's incredible. I don't know if everybody knows what you guys are doing over at the Mothership. You should explain how that came about and where you guys are at with that.
Yeah, so part of the evolution of the CAPiTA brand, you know, in the early days, we were a design and marketing-based company. Essentially, we designed the products and went to another factory and had them made, and that's the blueprint for most snowboard companies. So every snowboard company is going to tell you how they make the greatest stuff, but in truth, very few snowboard companies actually make anything at all, you know? And so we were at a position in 2011 where we felt like, wow, you know, we've made it a decade and we're growing and we're doing great, you know? And we're appreciative of that, but we're also self-aware and it's like, okay, well, how do we make it the next 10 years? How do we make it the next 10 years? And as a partner group, we identified that controlling our own production was the way to, you know, ensure our future. And so in 2011, we bought, which is what at the time was one of the biggest snowboard factories in the world, the Elan factory in Austria. And then over time, we ended up closing that factory down and we built the Mothership, which opened in 2015. And that is the world's first 100% clean energy snowboard production facility. So yeah, we're just really proud of that. I remember having this meeting with the partnership group, and we were talking about the future, and we could have stayed in the old factory just fine and could have kept, burning oil and having a significant carbon footprint. But when we talk about the future, in the future, you're not going to be able to have smokestacks outside your factory. Everybody's going to have more responsible and sustainable initiatives. So the question is not if, you're going to do it, but, when that you're going to do it, and do you want to invest now? And I was really, really proud of our group because it was a unanimous decision. Like, let's do this the right way. Let's invest in our future. Let's invest and try to do our part to produce responsibly. And I think that was one of those kind of breakout moments for the company, because I believe in the inherent good in people. I believe that people want to do the right thing. And I even believe, as an extension of that, companies want to do the right thing. The question is, do people or companies want to do the right thing bad enough that they're willing to make significant sacrifices to do it? Are they willing to put their money on the table, defer profits, or make investments, or even have expenses? And the difference between an investment and expense is investment you make with the thought that someday you're going to get a return. And an expense is something you do because you spend money on something because it's the right thing to do, or it's something that you want to do, and there's not always a return. And with the Mothership, it was an incredible engineering undertaking. A lot of companies that claim 100% hydropower, they buy hydro credits from a grid. We have our own hydropower station on site. We're one of few privately held companies that have tapped into a public waterway in the country of Austria, and we pump water through the factory, and only the thermal energy or the temperature is utilized to activate the NH3 system that heats and cools the building and the presses, so the water isn't actually touched. It goes back clean into the river. And we have, solar panels on the roof for the base electricity draw for LED, natural lighting, and it's extensive, water-based sinks and healthy environment. Even in our wood core milling zone, we have a 5-axis machine that mills the wood cores, but all the excess sawdust we compress into pucks and give them to local farmers to heat their houses and stuff. So it's really, really, really cool, and I'm really proud of it.
You're pretty hands-on at the factory too, right?
Yeah, it depends over the years, but we have an incredible team of managers and executives that run the factory operations. So I live in Seattle, of course, and pre-COVID, I was in Austria about 10 days every other month. But after COVID, I haven't been traveling there as much. And so I don't manage the factory floor or run the people there, and so we have an awesome group of people that run that,
I want to highlight something you said earlier, talking about complex issues that are very, very difficult to solve, and it's overwhelming, or I can't remember the verbiage you used exactly, but it falls in line of exactly what you said earlier in the episode, which is if everybody can just do good, for lack of a better term, in their little bubble, if they can make a small impact in their little bubble, they'll change the world. And that's like exactly what you guys are doing with CAPiTA on your ability and your scale of what you're able to do. You guys are making a good impact, and that's fucking awesome. Let's give you a goddamn air horn for that.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I agree that we first of all, let's be honest, we're still manufacturing things, and manufacturing things at its core isn't environmentally friendly, and I think it goes back to being honest and truthful about what your goals are. If the goal was to, if the number one goal was to save the planet, honestly, we probably wouldn't manufacture anything at all. So we have to be honest with the reality that our number one goal is to make the best snowboards in the world. That's the number one goal. Now, secondarily from that goal, what decisions can we make that are responsible decisions that can benefit the people around us and the environment and the area in which the manufacturing operates. And that's kind of how, I live my life. And with the company, it's about, just being honest about like what we're trying to do. Okay. I want to make the best damn snowboard in the world. Okay. Now, after that, how do we do that responsibly? How do we do that with the best, intentions and best initiatives and things like that?
So I've come to understand a lot of companies are kind of, for lack of a better term, full of shit with selling their green energy story or greenwashing, I believe it's called. How does that compare to what you guys do at CAPiTA?
Well, that's a difficult wormhole to go down because there's so many layers to it. But I believe in our actions speaking for themselves. And so if you look at what most people know CAPiTA for, I think they know us for, world-class athletes and progressive products and art and graphics. That's what a lot of people know us for. There are other brands that present themselves. Their entire marketing presentation of the company is about them being green. That's it. That's the foundation of their company, to varying levels of truth. And when we, opened the Mothership in 2015, we invested more than anybody in the history of the snowboarding industry on responsible manufacturing and clean energy. Now, in 2015, did you see the look and feel of the brand change? Did not change. We didn't overnight become this like, hey, look at us.
Yeah, we're green.
We're a green company. We are who we are. And I think that, I hope anyway, at some point there's going to be a realization by the customer base where they look at these other companies that market themselves as being green and they're like, wait, these guys I think are green are like, maybe are, but maybe aren't. But then these crazy freaking CAPiTA dudes have like invested millions and millions and millions of dollars into clean energy production.
There's no green police.
I think that there's kind of a moment there that is kind of a powerful moment,
Okay, earlier we were talking about your professional career. You've obviously worked with a ton of professional athletes with CAPiTA. Can you just speak on the hard work required to become a professional athlete?
Yeah, obviously it takes a lot to make it to the top tier of professional athletics, regardless of what your sport is. And at snowboarding, it takes a lot to get there too. It's been really fun over my life to be around a lot of amazing athletes. And I don't know if you know this, but my wife works in mainstream sports, and she has done everything from the Olympics to the X Games. Crank works in action sports, but also works in mainstream sports. So she used to work for the Los Angeles Galaxy. She's worked for Major League Soccer, worked for the Seattle Sounders, and currently she works with the Seattle Seahawks. And as such, we've become friends and had relationships with high-level athletes, Super Bowl champions and national team soccer members and Olympians, Olympic gold medalists. And, just sitting back, I've made an observation. And when you talk about the top tier of professional athletes, my observation is hard work is what they do when they get there, but it's not what got them there. And when you look at youth sports, I hear it over and over again from parents telling their little kids, just work hard. Just work hard. You work hard, you can get there. Work hard, work hard, work hard. And I think that's a mistake. Works for jerks, man. Kids don't want to work, And I think the parents that push their kids to work are the kids that either, flame out, burn out, or they're the kids, if they have an amazing athletic ability, they make it with a certain amount of resentment to the people that helped them the most. And that's not where you want to be, as a parent or somebody that loves a talented athlete. And what I've seen is that there's a certain path that these high-level professional athletes take. And it starts with this. Like, it doesn't matter if it's football or soccer, snowboarding, whatever, skateboarding. Like, before it's a sport, it's a game. And humans play games because it's fun. And so these kids are out there having fun. And what is a natural byproduct of fun? It's progression. You're out there, you're having fun, you're doing it every day, you love it. You're just bound to get better. And now what's a natural byproduct of progression? It's fun. You learn a new trick on your skateboard, that shit is fun. So it's these kids that get caught in this positive fun and progression cycle that start moving forward, right? But that in itself isn't enough to get there, okay? You also have to have a kid with a unique athletic ability, okay? Don't have to be the great one. You don't have to be Boren Gretzky, but you do have to be better than your peers on the local level. You have to have a certain degree of natural athletic ability. And you also have to have an internal mechanism, an internal drive, an ambition that like can't be coached by a parent, like a kid that just wants it. So what happens is if a kid has their own drive and they have a unique athletic ability and they're caught in a fun and progression cycle, what happens is the fun becomes a passion and the passion becomes an obsession. And when you're obsessed with something, nobody has to tell you to work hard. So of course, at the high level, you play for the Seattle Seahawks, you make millions and millions of dollars, and there's 100 dudes that want to take your job tomorrow. Do those guys work hard? Yes, they work hard. They're grown men, they're adults, they're professionals, they work their ass off. But again, what gets people there is the fun and progression cycle.
Oh, that is a great
Very well said.
You could write a book on that.
Yeah.
I would. Can you write that so I can read it?
The parent that forces their kid too hard, that kid is like, I'm over
Burnout
this.
City.
Yeah.
Well, dude, it goes back to what I was talking about Lily and the fun pellets, man. It's like you got to make it fun. You got to make it fun.
My wife was extremely talented piano, like award, scholarship. Her mom made her practice like 4 hours a day. You can't catch her around a piano. She hates the piano. We have one at our house, never touched.
Yeah.
I have a sidebar question. I just want to hijack this conversation for a second. You mentioned your wife works for Seattle Seahawks. I know you've kind of migrated from a Green Bay Packer fan to a Seattle Seahawk fan. Now, I'd like to go back to the Super Bowl a few years ago when the New England Patriots were playing the Seattle Seahawks, and you guys pretty much had the game locked up, but you guys chose to not give Marshawn Lynch the football. And what do you think about that decision?
That was the luckiest day in the Patriots fans' life. And all I just have to say is, the sun shines on a dog's ass some days. It love the moment. Live it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
My question for you is, how does it feel rooting for the second greatest quarterback of all time because nobody can fuck with Brett Favre?
Well, statistically, that's just inaccurate.
You
Emotionally, you may be correct, but statistically, that's actually just not a fact. But yeah, I know there's, this is where people are like clicking out of the podcast. I fucking football.
You know what though? Hey, I have a funny story. I hope Jackie doesn't mind me telling this story, but I get some perks, some husband perks. I get to go have some access to Seahawks stuff that it's kind of fun, and pre-COVID, of course, we'd go to the Seahawks holiday party, and at one point I sat next to John Schneider, who's the GM of the Seahawks, at dinner, and we became fast friends. He's from Green Bay, Wisconsin, and telling me a story. He used to be a ski instructor at Afton Alps, this mountain that I went to, and man, it was so funny because it's like a room full of people where like I'm not one of the people you should be talking to, but we were just chugging beer and talking about the Midwest and growing up and skiing and snowboarding and everything. It was like fast friends, and I think like celebrities, like high level people, it's just a reminder they're just normal people with a really cool job.
Yeah.
And when you have a cool job like that, of course, there happens to be, a kind of a protection or access barrier, and it's hard to reach these people, or to get, to communicate with them. But when you have an opportunity like that dude is funny and he is super, super cool. And it was like moments like that like make me more of a Seahawks fan, knowing that, how awesome that organization is from top to bottom, and just cool people working there. And it's cool.
Absolutely. And also to kind of relate that to Bud's and I's experience here at the show, we've realized, we've had a lot of people sit in that chair, people that I've looked up to, Jamie Thomas, Ken Block, people that I, never thought I'd be having a conversation with. They're sitting down for a few hours. And you realize when you have conversations with a lot of different people that whether you're billionaire or you got 5 cents and you're a CEO or you're a pro athlete or you're top of your sport, we're all the fucking same. You know, we all have, you know, struggles. You know, you think this person that has all this money hasn't gone through any struggles and hasn't felt the same way you do. We're all pretty much the same as humans. You know, that we're not that much different. Everybody wants to make us fucking different in different ways. And I think that's always cool when you get to meet your heroes and they're just like you, you know, and hopefully you don't have an experience where you don't want to meet your heroes and they let you down. That happens too. But yeah, it's cool. Like, this conversation's been incredible with you. You know, learned so much. And I have one other question I do want to ask as it pertains to business and stuff, because I love, again, actionable advice. I think stuff that you can take home with you. And so if you had a young entrepreneur that's thinking about starting up a company, or, you know, has this idea for a brand or something they want to start, do you have any advice for that person?
Yeah, I do. You know, be relentless, and that's what it takes. You know, entrepreneurship is not easy, and if you're going to go into it halfway, you're going to have 100% failure rate. And, you know, early days with CAPiTA, it was kind of like this: we'd get to a roadblock, then we'd find a way to get over it. And then we get to another roadblock and find a way to get over that, and another one, and so on. And I just thought in the early days, you know, if we fast forwarded 20 years, 21 years down the road, logically, I thought either A, you know, we wouldn't be here anymore, or B, the roadblocks would go away and it'd be smooth sailing. And that's not the truth. The reality is that the roadblocks never go away. They just change in size and complexity. And it's kind of like what Biggie said, more money, more problems, you know? And, you know, and so you have to be relentless. And one thing I can say about the history of CAPiTA is that we had a 100% refusal to fail. There was no fucking way that this thing was going to fail. Not on my watch. No way.
Huge advice. And I also wanted to say that you're totally kind of like disproving a fallacy in my mind, right? There's this dream, let's say with us, or this brand, like we have problems like every other company, right? And you think that, well, once I get to this level, then we'll be all good. Once we get to this level, then we'll be okay. These problems won't exist. But really kind of what I'm hearing when I'm hearing you talk is it's actually, the problems never fucking go away. But also, if you can find a way to enjoy the process too, like realize it's problem solving's fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy the process. We're going to get through this. That's like the black belt move. And obviously the relentlessness thrown in there with what you said. But
the bigger you get, the more is on the line too, right? Yeah. You got to go ham. Surround yourself by good peeps too.
Yeah, that reminds me of one time I was actually this is early on, and I went to Zoomies 100K. I don't know, you guys obviously know what that is, but for the listeners, it's, you know, Zoomies brings in a lot of their star employees, and a lot of the industry responds in force. And there's a moment of their show where they invite the founders of companies to go. And one of the early years I was there, and I'm looking at just heavy dudes like Richard Wolcott, the founder of Volcom, and Shepard Fairey, and just everybody from the skate industry, all your skate icons and legends, and GT from Von Zipper, just the list goes on and on. And while I was very appreciative of the opportunity to be there, I felt self-conscious. I felt like I didn't deserve to be there. You know, like there's, you know, Bob Knight from Quicksilver, like heavy dudes. And CAPiTA is this little teeny tiny thing I bet in my house. And there was a moment where I was talking to Pete Sari, who's the founder of Mervyn, awesome dude. But Pete was just like, I kind of told him like, hey, I don't feel like I belong here. And Pete looks at me and he just said, you know, one thing to keep in mind is at one point, every single one of these companies was the size that CAPiTA is now. And if you surround yourself with good people, you know, you will be successful. And I think that, you know, one, in the moment, I appreciated kind of, you know, the grace and his time in the moment to be reassuring. And that's also like one of the cool things about the snowboarding industry. It's like, it's competitive, but it's not competitive. It's also supportive at the same time, you know? And I appreciated that moment, but it also made a lot of sense for where CAPiTA has been and where you guys are at the bomb hole, man. You're creating something very, very special here. And as this grows for you, you're going to have to bring people in, and you're going to have to delegate. And, if you surround yourself with good people and capable people, you guys are going to do great.
That's interesting. We got the invite to Zoomies just a couple days ago.
Another thing that we totally forgot to get into is where did the name CAPiTA come from?
That's a good question. So let's look back in, the late 90s of kind of what was dominating the scene, early 2000s. And, around that time, Forum was larger than life. The Forum 8 have so much respect for, those guys and that crew and what they brought to professional snowboarding. And, it's one of the greatest brands of all time, for sure. But, I think in their pursuit for excellence and the highest level of professional snowboarding, they created something that was exclusive and exclusive in a positive way, but potentially exclusive in maybe a way that wasn't as inviting as possible, or people thought maybe if they weren't like the best kid in their town or the coolest kid in their town or whatever, they might not identify with that or feel like they could, And when we started CAPiTA, the word CAPiTA, it comes from per capita, which by dictionary definition means by and for the people. And so CAPiTA has been, it's the people's company. It's for everybody. It's been inclusive from the very, very beginning. And that's kind of been a funny thing about how, people love to tell you like what you are, and they've always told us like, oh, CAPiTA is this like core brand, or CAPiTA is this art brand, or whatever it may be, But the truth is that it's always been a snowboarding company that has been open and inviting and inclusive to anybody that likes what we do, or identify what we do from the very beginning. And that's continues to be where it is today.
Incredible.
That's great.
Another sidebar too on the CAPiTA thing, talking to Dan and talking, to some of the other writers, knowing Scott, but I know you've taken like specifically with Dan, some almost like a mentorship role and gone on to pass a lot of knowledge on down to him. And I just think that's really cool. I want to commend you on that, because you've been a pro, you have this brand. And again, it goes back to what you're kind of saying, like it's more than just a company. Like you guys are creating something that's for the people, and surround yourself with good people, invest in good people. Do you want to talk about like passing on some of that knowledge to Dan?
I mean, one thing that's important to me is having relationships that last. And I'm very thankful that in the case with, Dan Breezy, it's like I sponsored him in 2006, and I think he got his first paycheck in 2008, or I don't know, maybe it was 2004, 2006. I don't know. But he was a paid professional snowboarder for a long time. And then, when that professional era comes to a close, sometimes it's difficult for people and difficult for relationships. And I feel just thankful that we're able to get through that and then continue on a relationship that will hopefully continue for a long time. And yeah, sure, when he was younger, there may have been moments where, I could have positively mentored him, but I think we all know where this is going. And Breezy's going to be the one mentoring me, real soon,
Yep.
And that's also cool. That's great. That's part of the, the amazing part of getting a little bit older and having a little bit of, reflection, is watching these people grow. And, go back to those Utah days, how many kids I saw come up through Brighton, and that's a trip, because I was a little bit older. I saw Nate Bozung and Jordan Mendenhall come up as these fucking cute, awesome, talented little kids that were just ripping, asking me about how to be a pro snowboarder, and, it's like JP and Jeremy. It's like those guys are legends and they're iconic, and people know them because of their perseverance and their achievement over a long period of time. But let's not forget, they weren't the only ones in their friend crew that were good. That Farmington crew and all their homies surrounding it were gnarly. Mm-hmm. And to see them all come up, and that was just really, 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 really fun, And, Timmy O is such an awesome human, and all those kids surrounding them. And also, one thing that ties into a conversation we like having is I find it interesting when kids from Salt Lake City can go on 2-year Mormon missions and come back and be better at snowboarding than before they left.
Yeah, what's that all about?
I mean, I don't know. But, remember Jason Murphy?
Yeah, Murphy came back.
Dude,
The
he
Murphy
was
roll.
gnarly when he came back.
Yeah.
And I
hungry.
I mean, I have a theory about that too. It's, I think, let's say when Jason Murphy left for his mission, in those 2 years, I didn't get better at snowboarding.
Yeah.
You know, and the reason why I didn't get better at snowboarding is probably because I wasn't focused on my craft. I didn't take it seriously, and I was partying my face off every single night, you know? And I was chasing experiences. I wasn't chasing excellence. And I can't speak for Jason Murphy, but if I had to, you know, guess, I would think when he went on that Mormon mission, he was connected to something higher than himself. He probably had a lot of gratitude in his heart. I bet that he missed snowboarding, and I bet that he visualized snowboarding every day, what he was going to do when he got back. And the combination of that with being, you know, taking care of yourself, eating right, you know, being fit, he came back and just lit people up.
Just lit it up.
And that's amazing. You can not snowboard for 2 years straight and come back and just light everybody up.
Yeah, from day one, too.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to hit you with another hard-hitting fucking self-helpy question because I fucking love these ones. But, you know, you've started CAPiTA. You have a brand. There's a lot of people listening to the show that are trying to get their foot in the door, get on a brand, trying to get sponsored, whatever. What advice do you have for that lost young kid that knows he loves snowboarding, and he wants to try to make a career, make it, if you will?
Focus on your snowboarding. And I remember being at summer camp in Whistler one year, and I was talking to Dave Lee. So Dave Lee, for those that don't know, he's the founder of Signal Snowboarding Company. Back in the day, he was a big name pro. He had a pro model in LibTech, and he was in all the Mac Dog movies, gnarly. And I think we're probably the same age or close, but he was clearly more mature than me at the time. But I remember asking him, like, you know, Dave, you're at this, you know, you're at a level that I aspire to be at. You know, can you give me advice? Like, how can I get there? And he just looked at me and he's just like, Blue, focus on your snowboarding. He's like, you're focused on all this other stuff. Just focus on your snowboarding and you'll get there. And that really resonated with me. And that's something that I tell the CAPiTA kids all the time, you know, all the time, focus on your snowboarding. And, you know, one thing that's kind of harshed me over the years, and this has gone back forever and ever and ever, but it's the bitter pro. It's either the bitter up-and-coming pro that complains about how he doesn't get what he deserves, or the bitter ex-pro that's pissed about the industry or the team manager that kicked him out. And I just think, you know what, man, like, all in all, if you want to look at the history of snowboarding, I think snowboarding's been pretty fair to people for what they deserve. Do you think, for 1 second, that Travis Rice or Terry Hawkinson or Sean White or Danny Cass or Sean Palmer or Jamie Anderson ever sat around and complained about what they didn't get from snowboarding? No. So if you're pissed that you're not getting enough from snowboarding, probably a good idea to focus on your snowboarding.
Well said. Well said.
Go get it.
I got a little footnote to add to that too. I was listening to a podcast with Jay Shetty, who kind of does a bunch of stuff, but he was a monk at one time. But they asked him, what could you do? What would you do if you could prescribe something for 24 hours for everybody to do that would help their life? And he said, don't compare, complain, or criticize for 24 hours. See how your life changes. I was like, damn. But a lot of that pertained to what you were just talking about, because I hear those 3 C's going through a lot of the bitter ex current new pros per se, or a lot of people in life for that matter.
I think one of the reasons why there's a little bit of bitterness in the past, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but our sport's very unique because we have 2 avenues to be a respected professional. You can take a competitive route and be an Olympian, X Games star, or you can take a non-competitive route. And in our sport, some of the non-competitive athletes are the biggest and the most influential. And that doesn't exist. I mean, have you ever heard of a non-competitive professional baseball player? No, doesn't happen, you know? And part of the non-competitive path is an element of subjectivity, and it ties to people's relatability or personality. And you guys both know, over the course of time, there have been guys that haven't been that great athletically, but have big engaging personalities and people love and want more from them, can't get enough. And then there's been the opposite of the guys that were just super great athletes, but pretty fucking vanilla and boring and kind of hard to get there for their career. And then the recipe for success, it's not rocket science. It's the people that have the unbelievable ability and the ability to connect is what creates Damian Sanders and Danny Cass and Kevin Jones and, you know, the legends of the sport. And that charisma, you know, the trick, you can learn the trick, but people can't really learn the charisma, they either have it or not. And I think that subjectivity as what can potentially be frustrating for some up-and-coming athletes.
All right, we've been cruising along. We almost skipped over Hot Takes. Now, Hot Takes is presented by Oakley. I rock the Line Miner with the Prism lens. They support the show. They support myself. So go on, get yourself some Oaks. And with that being said, we're going to start off with the first staple we like to get into, and that is the Michael Jordan of snowboarding, how it pertains to you, both male and female. Who do you got?
Peter Line, hands down. If you want to have a conversation about the top 5 greatest snowboarders in history and you're not talking about Peter Line, you're fucking crazy. You know, I think if you want to talk about the Michael Jordan, you know, number one, he was better than all his peers in his prime. He was more famous than his peers in his prime. That's not always the same thing. You know, the best athlete's not always the most engaging one. And he was relentless, did it year after year after year. And in addition to that, his contributions weren't left on the court. You know, he founded companies and designed products and created legacy. You know, and Peter Line, he just relentless in the video part game, year after year after year after year, openers and closers. In the middle of that, a laundry list of X Games medals and competitively successful inventor of so many tricks and responsible either directly for a lot of the progression of freestyle snowboarding or for inspiring the people that invented a lot of the tricks in freestyle snowboarding. And then what a lot of people don't know, you know, he's one of the founders of Forum, one of the greatest brands ever. He, you know, designed clothes for Swag and for Special Blend and for Foursquare, and, you know, and not just like a feedback voice at the table. He actually designed the clothes. And after he retired from professional snowboarding, you know, he designed the technical outerwear at Dakine for years. And, but yeah, I'm just like a huge fan. And, you know, I was just in awe of him in the era. You know, I've traveled all around with a lot of different people. And I remember going to Japan with Peter Line in the 90s. I may as well have been there with Paul McCartney and John Lennon. It was fucking psycho.
Wow, that was a
female too.
Very thorough, proper answer. Love that.
I'm passionate about my pro snowboarding. Sorry.
Love it.
Jess Camira.
I back that.
Jess Camira. You know, and the reason why is that I just, you know, most professional athletes, it takes a lot to do it, you know, your own career. And I think she's the first athlete I've seen come through our industry that it's about something bigger than herself. It really is about something bigger than herself. Now, I think she has the accolades to share that title on her own. You know, she has the video parts of the year. And what most people, you know, don't realize, she had like 5 Reader's Choice Awards. Now, I think maybe in the industry, people think, you know, the video part of the year is the biggest award, but the entire purpose of sponsorship and endorsement is to, you know, connect and influence with customer base. So when the customer base is saying, hey, this is the person that I like the most and relate to the most, that's the biggest award. And she won 5 of them. And, you know, just everything that she's done as an evolution with the Uninvited Project and opening the doors for female athletes and creating this new, you know, energy or attitude through her video parts. A lot of people don't know. Jess Camira with the Uninvited, she paid for a lot of stuff out of her own pockets. You know, girls that want to go on trips that don't have a travel budget, Jess paid out of her own pocket. You know, and so just this attitude of like, hey, I'm not only here for myself, but I'm here to break this door down for every single girl that comes after me. It's unique and it's worthy of a lot of applause.
Absolutely. Yeah, bigger than snowboarding. Well said as well with that. Now, next question. Who is the most underrated snowboarder?
Underrated, I'm going Brandon Kilcard. I'm going Kilcard. You know, that one, number one, he's an incredible human. He's a gnarly snowboarder. And in terms of the industry, I think he's doing everything right. You know, he's an amazing artist. He has a compelling style. He, you know, generates content. He plays in bands. He's in front of people on stage. And from like a sponsor standpoint, he does every single thing that you would want an athlete to do on and off the slopes. And I've just felt over time that he has earned more of the support of the industry that maybe he hasn't received. And I'm kind of not sure why, you know, it's like I'm over here waving the flag saying like, this dude's amazing, you know, you should sponsor him. And so I'm hopeful that, like, you know, in the future, he stays inspired and ambitious and keeps getting after it. And I hope that more support comes his way.
Worst trend? What do you got?
Worst trend in snowboarding?
Yeah.
Hands down. Detuning your edges.
Wow. Okay.
People, listen to me.
What about the strats?
People, listen to me. Stop. Just stop doing it. Okay? You know, some snowboard manufacturers, credible snowboard factories, big snowboard factories, their grind line, it looks like the back shop of a B-grade snowboard shop. You know? At the Mothership, our grind line alone costs $7 million.
Woo.
Okay? It is high tech. Those snowboards out of the plastic are the edges are the way they're supposed to be. I ride every single board out of the plastic. Don't touch the edges.
So you're saying the jib boards out of the plastic are good to go in the metal?
Out of the plastic. If you want to take the knife edge off, you can like run a Scotch Brite pad over it. Or if you want to have a different tune, that's fine. Take it to the snowboard shop to somebody that knows what they're doing and put a different tune on. But what drives me crazy is when people take a perfectly good snowboard and then they pull it out of the plastic and immediately take like
angle grinder
a file
or file
to the edge off, you know, because number one, it's the logic there. It drives me crazy. It's like, I'm going to go back to the Toyota dealership. I'm going to buy a $50,000 truck. And then immediately I'm going to put shitty bald tires on it. Maybe I'm going to drive it in a telephone pole. And then I'm going to fucking think that I just upgraded my truck. It does not make sense. Okay. You have 2 edges on a snowboard. You have 4 contact points on a snowboard. If you take that file to your edges, there's no way you're going to get the same angle on all 4 contact points on 2 edges. So immediately you just took your symmetrical snowboard and turned it into some wonky, weird asymmetrical snowboard. It makes no sense. Stop doing it.
I love that rant. I love that rant. I'm going to challenge that rant. I'm going to challenge that rant. I agree. I've actually switched. I don't touch my edges anymore.
You don't.
But, huge but.
Big but.
If you are a street snowboarder, okay, and you are going dead straight into a handrail and you're diving front board into a steep ass kink.
Maybe throwing a cab 2-7.
And I'm going to tell you, it's going to be more difficult. What you're going to want to do is it's like you got the nice tires, okay, but you want those fuckers to be bald so you can Tokyo drift around the corner like Ken Block.
Okay, you want to talk Tokyo drift? I'm back in that. Okay, there are special applications to snowboard. They're not all applications are created the same. Yes. So if you're an urban or street rail specific snowboarder, of course, you do whatever you want because it doesn't matter if those edges are symmetrical or not. But I'm talking to the consumer. The average customer that's going to ride at a resort. That's who I'm talking to.
And they see someone in a video do it, maybe.
Yeah, and somehow, some way, there's this like notion that goes all the way back to the 90s that, I have to detune the edge, and they don't know how to do it properly, and so they're going to take a file to their fucking brand new snowboard. That's my beef. I don't have any beef with the street snowboarder.
Also, I'm actually gonna back him up with another fun fact. Louis Parody, best jibber out there, takes the board out of the plastic, doesn't touch the edges,
really
does all the crazy moves. So I just fucking debunked my entire
he does the craziest moves.
If you're an aspiring professional snowboarder, do whatever you gotta do. You're
whatever makes you happy.
Yeah,
right?
I'm talking to the consumer that just paid $500 for that snowboard. Do not take it out of the plastic.
Might be on a low side these days.
Yeah, and take an edge to it.
Next question: if you could go heliboarding with 3 people in the world, who would it be?
I got 4 because this is a bucket list for me. It's a dream for me, and it's probably not how you think, but it would be Joe Stalzer, Steve Chase, Dave Itis, and Mike Lewis, and that was my middle school skateboard snowboard crew. And we loved snowboarding equally as kids, And I've been able to have this life in snowboarding and go on trips like this. And those guys still love snowboarding, but they've never been able to go on a trip like that. And when you go to like a place like Ballface, and imagine, your local resort, you get there early and it's a mega pow day and you get that top to bottom run, but the resort's tracked by noon, or 10 even. And so you go Ballface, you get that run, every run, all day, every day. And you leave there every time I left that place. This is like the best trip of my life. And that experience, I would just love to share with my like middle school crew, and someday I hope to do it.
Solid. I love that answer. Now,
Middle school crew, that's tight.
We got to get into another thing that we like to ask is your setup. What's your preferred snowboard setup? Board, bindings, angles?
So I'm still heavily involved with the design of the geometry of the boards, and so I have a lot of boards to ride and test and evaluate over the course of the year. So I'm kind of riding something different all the time. But my go-to board is a board called the Mercury. And it's a kind of a free ride board, camber underfoot that has elevated contact points, and it's perfect for the Northwest. And it's like one of those days if you don't check the weather report and you don't really know what to expect, you just take it because you can handle anything. So no matter what setups I'm testing, like I always have a Mercury set up in the back of my truck that's just ready to go. And I use the Union Atlas bindings, 22.5-inch stance, and I fluctuate, but right now it's kind of like, 18 and -9.
Any forward lean?
I'm a big advocate of forward lean.
Guy likes to turn, huh?
Big advocate. So my style, it's not everybody's style. I like really, really soft boots and really, really stiff bindings. And that gives me like the agility to move how I want, but then the power to like crank the bindings in forward lean and just make the board rail.
Yeah, that's always awesome to explain as a person that is into product design, like why you do certain things. So some people might not know why you crank your forward lean. A lot of our listeners don't. We get that question a lot. Why should I do forward lean?
Or where is the forward lean?
Or what is forward lean?
That.
Yeah. So
how do I adjust that on my board? We've gotten a little
also,
bit.
Yeah,
there's no dumb questions
You should actually
either,
explain that as a product designer.
So forward lean just enables you to put more pressure on your heel side edge, reduce the possibility of a washout. It's like if you've ever snowboarded and you can rail these toe side turns, but when you go on your heel side turn, you kind of wash out. Part of that is due to, the difference of your toes and your heels on the side cut of the board. But when you put a little bit of forward lean on the high backs, it puts additional pressure on that heel side edge and allows you to like rail it. Going fast and carving hard, it's fun. It's kind of a new art form within itself.
Do you rotate your high backs?
I used to. Yeah. I rotated those for years and years. I don't anymore.
Yeah, no, I don't anymore either.
Not the heel cut, the high back. Is that what you said? Yeah, rotate the high backs. Yeah, no, I don't anymore, but I used to for a long, long time.
And also another side note on the forward lean, like if you really want to notice the difference, if you're riding a half pipe, no forward lean, and then you crank those suckers and you drop in and you do a backside air, you'll be like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
But not that I'm a fucking half pipe rider, but
those big pipe jocks, man, they got some forward lean.
Whenever I go 10 million miles an hour to catch 6 inches of air, I land and go, holy shit, I'm killing it.
Then you feel like you went 30 feet.
All right, Blue, we've been on a bit of a banter marathon here. And I think it's about time to throw out a couple thank yous.
It was a marathon. First of all, I want to thank you guys. Ethan, Chris, thanks so much for giving me the opportunity to come and tell some stories about life and snowboard history. So I appreciate it. Thanks. Like to thank, my dad, rest in peace, for instilling a sense of adventure and giving me an analog foundation for life. I'd like to thank my mom for being my great enabler and supporter. Obviously, I'd like to thank my wife, Jackie. Sometimes when you get in a flow state, things are going good. And, Jackie and I decided to get married on the second date. And we found each other. And I just remember like being on the sidewalk looking at her and saying, I'm going to marry you. And she looks back at me and she said, I'm going to marry you. And I look at her and I said, I'm not kidding. And she looks at me and she said, I'm not kidding either. And she has just been an incredible partner through life. And now we've been married for 10 years and we have 2 little dimple-faced cutie pies, and Maddie Momo and Lily Diamond, who are just my, inspiration on a daily basis. I love them so much. I definitely want to, say thanks to my, partners who, it's just been an incredible journey with both CAPiTA and Union and C3 over the years. And just really appreciative of the group. I want to say thanks to, Marshalltown, Iowa, and just the village. I'm just so thankful for my childhood. And when I look back, it's kind of incredible what one can do with the public high school education and a desire to be great. And most importantly, I'm thankful for everybody that has been a part of CAPiTA over 21 years. And, team riders and, employees and factory staff and distributors and retailers and shop floor staff. I appreciate it so much. And, most importantly, anyone that has ever gone into a store and bought a CAPiTA snowboard. This one's for you.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show, Blue. It's been an incredible chat, so thank you. We want to say thank you to everybody that tunes in and listens to the show. And we got another one coming at you next week. Over and out from the bomb hole.